Hey everybody, my name is Scott and welcome to the first ever video recording for the Dunlending War Cry. Normally I am a written blog going over mostly Isengard and Dunland play for the game, but we're going to be expanding a bit with the new edition coming out. And I just wanted to start today by going over the news that we got yesterday regarding some changes to the game. And then also, I'm going to be going over all of the armies and basically giving my first thoughts, being that they were all leaked within a day of stores getting it. A few got them early, and they've already been out. I've already seen them, and we're gonna review them, see first initial thoughts, and go from there. But just starting out, so we got this new article yesterday, uh, just going over the new stuff. So you can see it's just giving the rundown of that we're almost there for the edition, and this is some stuff coming out of it. So essentially, they're saying that they went over and looked over the game, looking at feedback, looking at everything, and figuring out some changes that would be good for the game. So to start, they reworked some profiles. So they're saying every single one, and I believe them because every single one is getting an intelligence stat, and of course changing the courage value to be the new way of measuring it. Um, though I think a fair few are going to basically look the exact same. Um, but they gave us the example. It's a fantastic example to have, and that's Aragorn. So right off the bat, you can see he is 160 points. He now has a fight value of 7, up from 6. His shoot value is still a 3 up, that hasn't changed. And it looks like he's been assigned an intelligence stat of 3 plus. So that means when he's taking intelligence stats, 2d6 just has to exceed 3 plus, which means he is the smartest he can be. You cannot increase your intelligence stat, or rather make it better than a 3 up. There are no 2 ups. So there is always the chance that Snake Eyes will fail. But of course, as we get to it later, he's still got Mighty Hero. So he's basically guaranteed to pass that test at any point. He's still got his 333 on stats for heroics. And then we see the new breakdown of the different keywords. So he's a man, he's got Fellowship and Dunedain, unchanged. And then he's got Hero, Infantry, and Unique. So the Unique is the new keyword that a lot of things are being assigned with. I'm personally of the opinion they might be going overboard with it. I don't think you need to identify so many things as unique when a lot of things can't even be taken together. For the example of Aragorn, I mean, there will be an LSR profile, and that's not gonna. I mean, it's not gonna matter. They're never gonna be in the same list for it to matter. But I suppose if they want to mark it just as a future proof for some reason, sure. A new thing as well is we can see the base size. So that'll be great for Runish War Drakes. We'll be able to know finally what their base size is outside the soft confirmation that we got via Facebook. You can see on his war gear, he's now got the Ring of Barahir, and he's got a hand-and-a-half weapon. He previously only had a one-handed weapon, so now, even without Anduril, he will be able to two-hand, which is awesome. Really put the 3 attacks to use, especially in lists that he doesn't even have Anduril yet, which, as we'll get to later, could be a few. The Ring of Barahir, it is a unique piece of war gear, that keyword unique again. When Aragorn is affected by a magical power, after any resist tests have been made, if able, so that means if he has no will, this still goes off, he may roll a d6, so it's optional. I don't know when you wouldn't want to, but sure. Maybe if you want to lose, or not necessarily lose, but die and end the game. On a natural 6, Aragorn is not affected by that magical power. So really it looks like a variation of the current Bofur rule. So Bofur has a 2 up when he is targeted, which is a little different than affected here. So targeted is, of course, specific rules like command or transfix. Aragorn is just affected. So that means AoE, even if somebody fails to resist, Aragorn's got an extra bonus just to prevent him from getting affected. Now, it'd be great if he got it for everybody, but it's a little bit of a failsafe. Heroic actions, you can see, he's still got everything. He had it all before. He's got accuracy, challenge, defense, march, resolve, strength, strike, which all have changed. We don't know what march is yet, but we have seen the leaks from accuracy, challenge. Defense is the same, but resolve, strength, and strike, they've all changed, and they're all fantastic. A lot of them that weren't seeing use before will see more use, and some of them that saw a little too much use kind of got reeled back a little, namely strike. As options, we can see Anduril, Flame of the West, at 40 points, unchanged. We see Brago. That's another new thing, is that they seem to be naming certain horses. And it is generally assumed that that will mean that those horses will get a special rule associated with them. We'll get to that in a minute. We can see you can also take Armor for 5 points, a Bow for 5, and an Elven Cloak for 5. So that's the same. Another note to make that Brago is 20 points rather than the 10-point horse that he previously had. And then we can see Anduril. It's a unique Elven Mage hand and a half. Same thing as normal. Never needs more than a 4-up. When he's doing two-handing, never needs more than a 3-up. And he's got Horse Lord, Mighty Hero, and Resistant to Magic. So the new one being Resistant to Magic, which everyone will agree, Aragorn was insanely weak to magic before. He had his 3 will. He had Might. He would generally be able to pass those first couple resists, but when you're dealing with consistent casters, they would break through. And he would just be powerless to stop them, especially when you're tying up that many points in a model. If a caster who generally will be at the same cost or less is tying you up, it's a bit of a problem. So it's good to see that he's got a little bit of a bonus. So this just goes off over some of the things we've said. Then we can see Brago. Brago has a special rule. So he's got his normal horse stats. It looks identical to most horses. Of course, there's now a 6-up intelligence, though I don't know that most regular horses have a courage of 4 at present. I think they might have 3, so Brago is a little more courageous. There's not typically a use case for that, but it's good to note. Special rules is Sure-Footed Steed. If Aragorn would be knocked prone whilst riding Brago, and if Brago is not slain as a result of the effect causing Aragorn to be knocked prone, then before becoming a separated mount, Aragorn may roll a d6, and on a 6, Aragorn is not knocked prone and stays mounted upon Brago. Aragorn may use Might to improve this roll. That is fantastic. So one of the easiest ways historically to knock a big mounted hero down a peg is knock him prone through effects like Sorcerer's Blast or a monster hurling, siege weapon, area of effects. This is a defense against that. On top of being able to use Might for it, it is a very good rule. I think that it will definitely benefit Aragorn. It'll keep him in the fight longer. He'll be less impacted by oppressive magic, which, if you've seen the leaks about the casting, has gone down a little bit. But even more so now, he will have protection from that. So he's got plot armor to the extreme now. Of course, he's always been paying for it. Now he's just actually a little bit more reflective of his cost. And another thing to note is you see faction says Sea Rider. So one big problematic rule that made it into the Eye of Sauron book that was previously an FAQ was that mounts share the keyword of the rider. So originally the FAQ rule was related to Warg Riders. So people were asking, hey, does this Mordor orc, Warg Rider, does the Warg keep the Mordor keyword if they get separated? And the answer was yes. And that made sense. It's a Warg, it's part of Mordor, that's fine. They rolled it into the Eye of Sauron book and made it affect just every mount. And then you potentially see the joke of the superior Easterling horse, or as of late, the superior Arnorian horse, in that because they share the keyword of their rider, certain effects will impact that mount. So, for example, Fury for Easterlings would affect the horse. And while it's not a big deal for the 6-up save, that's fine. It's fair. I don't know how a horse would necessarily understand the meaningless chanting of a war priest, but they could. The problematic part of it was the auto-passing courage tests. So horses normally, if they are separated, immediately run. The problem is then you also have a rule that says they will automatically pass, which takes precedence. And while you could easily say, well, it says automatically run, so they automatically run, nothing really clearly stating it. It was generally on the FAQ list, and I don't know that it was near the top because it wasn't really that big of an issue, but it was on there. That should become less of an issue if you have seen the new Fury rule. It's been knocked down, and of course there's no more channeled spells. I don't think it'll be an issue. If it is, it'll get FAQ'd. I hope. Arnor was a little weirder, where Arnorian horses got the benefit of foresight. They can see into the future because of Malbeth. And personally, that didn't quite make sense. But it, as written, that is the rule. But I'm hoping it's not really an issue this edition. If it is, again, it'll go onto the FAQ list and hopefully gets answered. So after that, we can now see that we have a new profile for a Warrior of Minas Tirith. Right off the bat, the first thing everyone's going to scream, they're Fight 4! And that's a good change. Warriors of Minas Tirith were just, They were just overshadowed by the Fight 4 or buffed to Fight 5 Fountain Court Guards or Rangers or even Citadel Guards. You wouldn't take Warriors of Minas Tirith past a front line. They would just kind of be there. They don't get buffs that mean anything, and they just kind of are tin cans that get in the way. But now they're Fight 4, which is good. They've been doing fight value rebalancing, and basically how they've kind of described it is that something was the upper end of a fight value band. It probably got bumped up. So Warrior of Minas Tirith, they're a trained soldier. They've been fighting the armies of Mordor. They get bumped up. It makes sense. There's a leak today regarding the Morannon orc that it also went up a point. It might have gotten bumped in fight value too. That is a suspicion. The alternative is maybe an additional special rule, but as a baseline troop, Morannons might have gotten fight 4. Do I think they should? Not really. They're still orcs, but if that's the balanced decision they made, I can live with it. They're going to have to pay an extra point for it. It doesn't go away. Indicative of that, because this is now an 8-point profile, it looks like they're keeping the general point scale that they have. So if something gets bumped up from, say, Fight 3 to Fight 4, that's a point increase. So it'll be generally easy to guess what the changes are while we don't have the profiles yet. But in terms of the Warrior of Minas Tirith's actual stats, you can see that it has an intelligence of 7 up. So it's about average, I would expect, for what models will have. Courage is 7 up, which is equivalent to a 3 right now. You can see Man, Gondor, Warrior Infantry, all the same thing you'd expect. Heavy armor and hand weapon. You'll note again that we don't have different types of weapons anymore. They are just hand weapons. But you can model it a whole bunch of ways. You can toss an axe, toss a flail. It's the same weapon. Now the difference here is you no longer have a choice to take this model without war gear. So you could take it as a base without sword. It'd be D5, the same as a crew for a siege weapon. You can't do that anymore. Now you have to take war gear that we are guessing is associated with the sprues that models come on. So in the case of Warriors of Minas Tirith, so out of the box, you have shield and spear models, bow models, and shield models. So you can take a shield and spear for 2 points, same cost it was before. You can take a bow for 1 point, same cost before. Shield for 1 point, same cost as before. And those are the same. The only difference being that you have to take something. Now, the difference ones are a banner cannot be combined with anything. So you can only pick one. So if you pick a banner, you're not going to have a shield, you're not going to have a spear, you're not going to have a bow. That warrior is going to be either on the back lines just hanging out, or they're going to be fighting up front. Now, fighting up front is not as big of a deal right now. With the change to specifically Sorcerer's Blast, no longer moving models, it's not that scary anymore. Same for in the back. It's not that scary anymore. Of course, you still want it to be touching something in case it dies, but you won't just get a model flung out of the way. Now, the real question is how Hurl and Monsters will work. That might change. We don't know. Well, we do know it'll change. We just don't know what it will be. And then lastly, you have a Warhorn and Shield. So you can see it's 26 points. That's 1 point for the shield and 25 for the warhorn. So it's gone down by 5 points. So it's in line with a banner, and it looks like they might be making the play that it is a reasonable alternative rather than paying that 5 extra points for a thing that can't be passed. I suspect that a warhorn will be able to be passed, and that's a good change. It didn't quite make sense that warhorns couldn't be passed. It feels like it would be easier to pass them than a big banner. Now, the slightly annoying part is that the only reason the warhorn model has a shield is that's the model they made. And it's a bit disappointing. I know we're all a little bit down on the war gear changes. This is one of those that it just feels unfortunate. More specifically in the case that banners can't be spears. I mean, as the joke that keeps getting made in my favorite American historical movie, The Patriot, Mel Gibson uses a American flag as a spear, and that should justify it, but not for GW. Then we can go and see intelligence. It talks a little bit about that. So you can see a model's intelligence denotes how smart or cunning they are. And then when they have to take it, it's a 2d6, and they gotta equal or beat the number. So things like spotting an invisible ring bearer will require it. And then monsters will need to do it when they make a hurl brutal power attack to see where they can throw their target. So that's right off the bat indicating that hurl is not the same. Hurl will have a direction. And it previously did. From my understanding, the Hobbit one allowed you to toss it in any direction. So maybe this is going back to that a little bit. Now, the leak has been that it will be a targeted ability. You take one model, you throw it at another, there's no whatever it passes over. It's just you throw it. And maybe the intelligence means what angle you can throw it at. If you roll poorly, it has to be a model directly away. If you roll well, maybe you can throw it in any direction. We don't know yet, but it'd be nice to tone down the impact of hurl in terms of line battles, but tone up it getting tossed at someone like Aragorn and actually impacting them. Another change we see is priority. So now it is no longer that if you win, you get it. It is now, if you win, you pick who gets it. So now, like, there are always in every game a time where you just don't want priority. Case in point, the initial engagement turn, when you're both just out of 6 for most armies, you don't want priority because you're gonna move up, and then they're gonna charge some models, and they're gonna get the most advantageous fights that they can get, and it can just be oppressive. Now, this could potentially lead to more people handing it off and then leading to stalemate situations, but I think with bowfire, throwing weapons, hero abilities, I think that it will be good, and it will lead to more tactical engagements. And going back to League Talk, if you've seen General Trag, he has an ability for his army where giving priority away gives out rerolls to Hillman, which is awesome. And I think there will be more abilities like that. Next up, we can see just a general note, clear, more consistent wording. And that's a good stance to see. That's what we all kind of want. So it's making that wording is clearer, examples and diagrams are clearer, there's less confusion that end up being semantic analysis of what is what that has to be FAQ'd as a common sense thing. That's great. And I specifically, they talk about like the move phase and activating and adding more timings for that. That's awesome because there were a fair few models that it just really wasn't clear when they work. And this is a good change. And they also comment on unit types like war beasts and chariots are going to have their own sections in the rules. And then another key one, matched play scenarios are now up to 20 points for greater spread. So that means it's not going to be just main objective is 6 points, side objective 3, and another side objective 3. It'll be much bigger of a spread, more benefits for playing the main objective. You probably won't be able to win just by breaking your opponent and ignoring the main objective. You're going to have to play for it, and that's a good change as well. There are a fair few armies that just win on BS. They win because They go for some other combination of points and are able to mitigate the main objective enough so that the other points get them the win. And changing that so that the main objective is the goal, I think that's good. I think the 20 points will be a lot cooler. In addition, they gave us a tease of a new special rule, dominant brackets X, a passive special rule. So what dominant is that models with it get to count as more than one in a certain area. So they gave the example in the starter kit that was leaked of the Hillman with flaming brands count as 2 models for objectives rather than 1. They have dominant 2. It is suspected that a bunch of monsters will have dominant of some value. It will make monster matches more viable for objective scenarios. A big Mumak will probably have a big dominant number. It's massive, and it's going to control an objective with its massive body, and that should be represented, and that's fair. Usually the way that people would deal with monsters was tie them up with a couple models, and then play the objective, and they're 1 model and they can't do much. But now it's not that simple. Now you have to play around it. So after all that, that's the news that we got. Now we can go into the good stuff. So the good stuff are the leaks. So what we got is a bunch of pictures, and I will not show them because I'm not going to get in trouble. But I can talk about them because they're out there. You can find them. What we got was some snips of the army lists and a couple profiles for the Armies of the Lord of the Rings book. So to start, we got a contents page. We can see the breakdown of all the armies and the pages, and it's awesome. So to start, I'll just give a rundown of the army lists, and then I'll go over each one. So on the good side, they give a breakdown of armies similar to the old books, where it is the Free Peoples, Rohan, Gondor, and the Elven Kingdoms. You'll note, there's no dwarves. They're not there yet. They're going to be in the armies of the Hobbit and armies of Middle-earth. There's no dwarves in Lord of the Rings besides Gimli. And, of course, those at the Council of Elrond, but GW doesn't want to talk about those. For the good army lists, we have the Fellowship, the Shire, the Road to Rivendell, Breaking of the Fellowship, Kingdom of Rohan, Road to Helm's Deep, Defenders of Helm's Deep, Ride Out, Riders of Éomer, Riders of Theoden, Army of Edoras, Defenders of the Hornburg, Minas Tirith, Garrison of Ithilien, Reclamation of Osgiliath, Atop the Walls, Return of the King, Defenders of the Pelennor, Men of the West, Numenor, Lindon, Rivendell, The Last Alliance, Lothlorien, Fangorn, the Eagles, and the Realms of Men. On the evil side, the breakdown of profiles they give us is Mordor, Isengard, the Hill Tribes, the Misty Mountains, and Fallen Realms. And for evil armies, we have Barad-dûr, the Black Riders, Wraiths on Wings, Army of Gothmog, Legions of Mordor, Minas Morgul, Cirith Ungol, the Black Gate, Army of the White Hand, Lurtz's Scouts, Ugluk Scouts, Wolves of Isengard, Muster of Isengard, Assault upon Helm's Deep, Usurpers of Edoras, Besiegers of the Hornburg, Depth of Moria, Harad, and the Corsair Fleets. So you'll notice a lot more good than evil, but that's to be expected. The movies, they're about the good guys. The evil guys they're secondary. The good guys have all the moments, they have the thematic things, and that's what this edition is going to focus in on, are the thematic moments of the films. The thematic moments of the books will be secondary. We don't really know exactly what they're going to do with them, but we can talk about that later. For now, let me just start going through the armies and just going over the rosters and what we expect. So to start, we have the Fellowship. So the Fellowship is about exactly who you would expect. However, it is a little more limited than the current edition's Fellowship. So you have Gandalf the Grey at 170 points. You have, as a hero of legend, you have Aragorn Strider at 160 points with an option for a 5-point bow as a hero of valor. You also have Legolas at 100 points as a hero of valor, Gimli, son of Gloin, at 100 points as a hero of valor. Boromir of Gondor at 95 points, with a point option for a 20-point horse and a 5-point shield. So same as before, outside the horse now being more expensive. All of them being heroes of valor. You'll notice the Fellowship does not have horses for Gandalf, Aragorn, Legolas, or Gimli. That's an interesting decision, but it's more representative, I would guess, of they didn't really have horses shown. Boromir rode into Rivendell on a horse. It's probably what they went with. Then you have Frodo at 55 points with the Mithril Coat for 15 and Sting for 5. And then Samwise Gamgee for 40 points, both of them being Heroes of Fortitude. Then you have Merry and Pippin at 10 points apiece, same as before. And Bill the Pony at 25 points. So you don't have the excess ones that were kind of added in via Wanderers or the whatnot, so no whatever the guy with the lantern is, and no Barlam and Butterbeer, and no Arwen. Additional rules, they have finally specified that the Fellowship is a single warband. As a common question was, are they one warband? Can you deploy them separately? And it is most clearly in this new edition one warband, and that makes sense. Special rules, you have my sword. So long as Frodo is alive and on the battlefield, friendly Fellowship models will gain the Fearless special rule. Additionally, a Fellowship army can never be considered broken while Frodo is alive, even if he escapes the battlefield in scenarios where this applies. Same as before. That was the army bonus. It was a very good army bonus. They've kept that. In addition to that, the Bond of Fellowship. Friendly models within 3 inches of another Fellowship model, friendly Fellowship model, may re-roll a single failed to wound roll when making strikes. Pretty good. Gives a little bit of extra wounding power for being near each other. You don't want to spread out. You want to stay close, and you want to benefit from that. Traverse the Wilderness. Friendly Fellowship models gain the Woodland Creature and Mountain Dweller special rolls. Awesome. They get a little bit of extra mobility to reflect the fact that they were traveling throughout the lands. They were traversing this difficult terrain, and they got pretty good at it, you would hope. Next up, we have the Shire. The Shire, unfortunately, is looking like a beautiful 500-point ringer list, as someone calculated out before. The Shire has no warrior models, because none of them are in the movie. You have Gandalf the Grey at 170 points, with the option for his cart at 25. So, beautifully thematic. Kartdoff is still alive. There is no more, or no risk that he's gone. Then you get Bilbo Baggins, aging hobbit. So no longer is he just Bilbo Baggins, he is the aging Bilbo Baggins. At 45 points, with a 15-point option for the Mithril Coat and 5 points for Sting. So this is clearly representative of pre-party Shire. It doesn't have Bilbo having set off already. You can have Frodo for 55 points. He does not have an option for any war gear. So this is Bilbo with the war gear, not Frodo. You have Sam for 40. You can take Hamfast Gaffer Gamgee for 35. You can take Farmer Maggot for 50. Notably, it does not mention Grip Fang or Wolf, but that does not mean it's not in the profile. All of them, besides Gandalf so far, who is a legend, are Heroes of Fortitude. And then independent, you have Barry and Pippin. You have Rosie Cotton at 20 points, and then you have Lobelia Sackville Baggins at 20 points. And then additional rules. When writing an army list for the Shire, if the army contains only hero models, a player can either have models in a single warband or multiple smaller warbands as normal. So it lets you play around with the rule. To me, this is an indication that it's not going to be as simple as the armies of Middle-earth having different army lists. It will have different army lists, but it will also mention in certain profiles that they can be taken in other armies. So this just clearly seems to indicate that. I don't see why it would state that if there were never going to be warriors as an option. Just isn't right now. Bilbo's Magic Ring. In this army list, Bilbo carries the one ring instead of Frodo. So that's another indicative thing that Frodo probably carries the ring by default. or it's just the current list and it's just outside mentioning that they can take the ring. They just have it. This will be a night to remember. Friendly models may reroll failed courage tests. Additionally, friendly models cannot have their courage tests reduced by the special rules or magical powers of enemy models. Awesome. You're having a party, no one can dampen their spirits. The Grey Wizard. Friendly models may benefit from Gandalf's Standfast. Additionally, Gandalf may use 2 fireworks each shoot phase rather than 1, though they must be different fireworks and must target different models. Gandalf's got different types of fireworks now. What they are, we don't know yet, but that is cool. Kartoff rides again. A long expected party. Friendly models will pass a fate roll on a 3-up rather than a 4-up. Additionally, friendly models will reroll all fate rolls. Can't dampen their party. They're going to keep fighting, keep drinking, keep setting off fireworks. You can't stop them. Now, what I suspect for the fireworks is that Gandalf's going to have a dragon firework. And it's going to breathe fire. And it's going to be awesome. It might be some sort of AoE effect around a target. Next up, we have the Road to Rivendell. So, roster-wise, we start off with Aragorn, normal 160, bow for 5, as a hero of legend. We have Frodo as a hero of fortitude with 55 points, 15-point mithril coat, and 5-point sting. Now, it was pointed out by one of the players by me that Frodo shouldn't have those. He didn't get them yet, at least in the movies. He got them after. So, while they could be kind of combining every point up between Frodo leaving the Shire and getting to Rivendell before he sets out, sure, that can be a justification. Just seems a little stretched for thematic moments to not quite be a moment, more several days. Or weeks even, I can't remember. Frodo's out unconscious for a little while. Next you have Samwise at 40 points. You have Arwen at 90 points with Asfaloth and Hadafang. She has Elrond's sword here. Something that she didn't have before. That's new. Hadafang, as we know, gives a +1 to wound against spirits. So thematically, they're fighting the ring race. She has Elrond's sword. She can kill them easier. Next up, we have minor hero of Barlaam Butterbeer. I don't know why he's in here. I guess if the moment is stretched that far, I'm sure. 45 points. And then independent, Merry and Pippin, Bill the Pony, the Gatekeeper of Bree. So they renamed him, I guess, to the Gatekeeper of Bree. Doesn't have a name in the movies, so I guess they're waiting for the books. Maybe they're going to rename him again. But he is 40 points. Additional rules. A Road to Rivendell army must include Frodo. And then, while writing a Road to Rivendell army list, a player can either have all models in a single warband or as multiple smaller warbands as normal. So again, they get a little more flexibility of how they want to do it. We do not stop till nightfall. Aragorn may declare a heroic march each turn for free. Additionally, friendly models that begin their activation within 6 inches of Aragorn gain the Woodland Creature special rule until the end of the turn. So that is cool, because not only does Aragorn not have to use his Mighty Hero for that, he just gets marches every turn. If someone charges him, he can call a combat for free every turn. He can do a lot. Gives him a lot of flexibility. I'm the faster rider. I'll take him. If your army includes both Frodo and Arwen, then Frodo may begin the game as a passenger upon Asfaloth. Whilst Frodo is mounted on Asfaloth, Arwen gains the resistant to magic special rule, increases her attacks characteristic to 3, and can spend Frodo's might, will, and fate points as if they were her own. Frodo cannot put on the One Ring while he is a passenger. So that's something we're going to see a fair bit. They've taken the feedback from Durnhelm, and they've applied it to places that make sense. And that's so cool. There were a lot, specifically Gandalf and Pippin, that should be combined. They released a model where he is quite literally mounted, and they've applied it to further things. Now, what I suspect, because they're talking about how they want things to be more in line with the model range as it exists, maybe they release a Frodo and Arwen model. I don't think there is one, so it would be pretty cool if that's a model that they're going to come out with. I'll spoil a little ahead because I glanced at it earlier. Maybe they will be re-releasing a Gimli and Legolas mounted model. There is one, but it's a little hard to find. I think it comes as a part of the Warg Attack MTO that they've brought back a couple times. Next rule is, if you want him, come and claim him. Whilst she is within 6 inches of Frodo, including if he is a passenger on Asphaleth, Arwen gains the Fearless special rule and may re-roll any dice when making a casting roll. So she's almost certainly going to be having Wrath of the Brunnen. She probably has Renew. I think she has that now, but she definitely will seemingly have that. So she'll have a greater chance of getting those spells off. And of course, she won't be subjected to things that prey on her courage value. She'll just go straight through them. And then on top of that, having resistant to magic when Frodo's with her, and the buff to attacks, she's going to be a nasty character. I suspect that increasing her attacks to 3 means that she's going to have 2 base, which is cool. She can actually fight. I think she only has 1 right now. The cover of night. At the start of each game using this army list, you may choose for the scenario to take place at night if you wish. Awesome. If you do, then at the start of each move phase, you may choose whether or not the Gatekeeper of Breeze, a light in the dark special rule is in effect or not. That's cool. I suspect that's in reference to his lighting up stuff around them, so you can turn it on and turn it off every turn, so you can keep them hidden a little bit from far range until you get really close, or you can send him up alone and light up things. I think that's pretty cool. A lot more weather type effects would be a cool variation of every game. Next, we have the Breaking of the Fellowship. So you start off with Aragorn again as a legend, normal 160 points with a 5-point bow option. You can take Legolas, Gimli, Boromir with a shield, or Boromir at 95, 5-point shield. So all of those 100 totaled out. And you can take Haldir, 70 points, 5 points for a bow. That's new. Breaking before was strictly the Fellowship Sans Gandalf. Now you can have elves. All of those being Valor, Heroes of Fortitude, Frodo, 55, Mithril for 15, Sting for 5, Samwise at 40, and then you can take Merry and Pippin as independents, and then Warrior, you can take Lothlorien Warriors. So I guess they're no longer Lothlorien Elves, or Galadrim Elves, rather, or Galadrim Warrior, whatever it was. They're now specifically Lothlorien Warriors. You can take them for 8 points. They can pay 25 for a banner, 2 points for an elf bow, 2 points for elven throwing weapons, and 1 point for a wood elf spear. Okay, so actually, that's not a Galadrim, that is a wood elf. So my suspicion is that Haldir is not going to have armor by default, so you'll still be able to pick between, I guess. And this is more Pajama Elf Party. So I guess they're helping out the Fellowship. This is similar to the Road to Rivendell. It's kind of a spread out event, it seems. It's going from when they get to Lothlorien all the way till people start dying. And that's interesting. But it will have warriors, so you can take a bunch of elves with these heroes. A breaking of the Fellowship army must include Aragorn Strider, who's always the army's general. So you see that new word general. It's a replacement of leader. Pretty cut and dry. All Fellowship models must be included in Aragorn's warband. So that means Legolas, Gimli, Boromir, Frodo, Merry, Sam, Pippin, Perry the Platypus. They will all be in Aragorn's warband. Seemingly, who cares about tier? Lothlorien warriors can only be included in warband led by Haldir. So you can't just take them wherever, you have to take them with Haldir. It's thematic. They're not going to just be following Sam as he cooks bacon. Special rules. Gifts of Galadriel. So still have the gifts. Frodo, Light of Eärendil. At the start of each of his activations, Frodo may roll a d6. On a 3-up, Frodo counts as having cast the Blinding Light magical power. Sam, Elven Rote. Sam always counts as rolling a 6 for any climb, leap, or jump tests he's required to make. Merry and Pippin, Daggers of the Nildoran. These are elven hand weapons. Whilst wielding these weapons, Merry and Pippin may reroll to wound rolls when making strikes. Fail to wound rolls when making strikes. Aragorn, Elven Dagger. This is an elven hand weapon with the Uruk Highbane special rule. So Bane weapons are still a thing. They haven't had much use before, but maybe now they will. Hopefully that's the case. Legolas, Bow of the Galadrim. Whilst within 3 inches of a friendly Lothlorien model, Legolas may reroll failed to hit rolls when making shooting attacks. So it's not just by default, he's got to have elves with him. So you can't, you could just take the fellowship, but he won't get the benefit. And that's pretty cool. Gimli, Galadriel's Locks. Gimli may use this war gear to reroll a single d6 in a duel roll. Previously, it was his whole roll. Gimli may only use this war gear 3 times during the course of the game. So that's cool. That's better than it was. Before, it was a little annoying between the banner effect that Breaking had and that. They couldn't stack, and you couldn't use them effectively together. Now it's 1, so it's a little better. Less powerful, but more useful, I think. Though I haven't read the rest of the rules yet. Boromir, Golden Belt. Boromir gains the Woodland Creature Special. Same as before. Pretty underwhelming on Boromir's front. You have my sword. So long as Frodo's alive on the battlefield, we've seen this before. Same thing. Can't be broken, even if he escapes. Blessing of Galadriel. Friendly models count as being under the effects of the Fortified Spirit magic power, even if they have no will points remaining. Same as before. And then shielded from unfriendly eyes. Friendly hero models gain an elven cloak for free. So basically, it's the same army. That hasn't really changed. All you did was add elves. It gives a little more flexibility for how many points it can go up to. Before, it capped out at 600. Now, roughly looking at it, it can go fairly higher. So it can be an effective list all the way up to 800 and beyond, which is good. It's a cool list to run. It was just getting shut down pretty quick once you pass 600. Next up, we have the Kingdom of Rohan. It starts off with its one hero of legend, Theoden, King of Rohan, at 75 points. You can take Snowmane with or without armor for 20 points or 25. And then you can exchange his armor for heavy armor for 5 points and take a shield for 5 points. So it looks like by default, he probably is D5. You can bump him up to D7. So it looks like all in, he's 110 points if you take everything maxed out. Heroes of Valor, you have Theodred, Prince of Rohan, for 85 points. He can take Brago, and as we saw earlier, Brago is also an Aragorn. So Theodred can benefit from Brago's special rules. And he can take a shield for 5 points. No more throwing spears. Which, as they've said, they're trying to get more in line with the models that they have released. He didn't come with throwing spears. So, Éomer, Marshal of the Rinnemark, at 110 points. He can take Firefoot with or without armor, 20 and 25 points. We don't know what Firefoot does yet, but it's really cool that he's got a named horse. He can take a shield for 5 points and throwing spears for 5. We've got the newer plastic kit, so yep, he has all those options. Then we have Hama, Captain of Rohan, as a hero of fortitude for 60 points. No more horse option. Hama is doomed to be on foot forever. That's sad. Next, you have Gamlen, Captain of Rohan, at 55 points. Same as before. Royal Standard of Rohan for 40, or actually, I think he was 65 before. I'm trying not to pull up every profile because I'll be there all day. He could take the Royal Standard of Rohan for 40 points. He could take a horse for 20 points. You see, horses are 20 points now on everybody. Even the next up, Lowly Captain of Rohan at 45 points. Horse is 20. So it has been bumped. He can exchange his armor for heavy armor for 5 points and a shield for 5 points. The same as Theoden. Then you have Éowyn, Shield Maiden of Rohan, at 60 points. She can take a horse for 20, armor for 5, shield for 5, throwing spears for 5. So, as expected. Warrior of Rohan. So now we could see some real changes. 6 points. And then the war gear options. It can take a Warhorn, shield, and throwing spears for 28 points. So Warriors of Rohan will be able to have a Warhorn from the backline, because as the leaks have shown, throwing spears can be used as spears for supporting now. You don't only get it in certain legions. You can take a banner for 25. You can take shield and throwing spears for 3 points, bow for 1, and shield for 1. So no more option for throwing spears on their own. You must pay for 3 points. So it's a 9-point model to take everything, which can add up pretty quickly. But they have more uses now in that you can support. So Foot Rohan can be a thing. Though, as we'll get to later, it is not necessarily going to be throwing spear spam. Riders of Rohan for 14 points, banner for 25, throwing spears for 2. Same. Rohan Royal Guard for 11. They have been upped. Horse and Throwing Spears for 7. Horse for 5. Throwing Spears for 2. So they can kind of customize what they're doing, but they cost more. I believe they were 17 all in before, but I might be mistaken. Next, as additional rules, Riders of Rohan do not count towards this army's bow limit. Same thing they had before. Ride for Ruin in the World's Ending. Friendly Rohan cavalry gain a bonus of +1 strength to their +1 to their strength on a turn in which they charge. That was the baseline army bonus before. Then Home of the Horse Lords. When rolling for their Horse Lord special rule, friendly models will pass the roll on a natural 5+ rather than a natural 6. So straight off the bat, we can see Horse Lord has become a natural roll. You cannot might it. So that'll affect things like Aragorn. His might will not help. So this makes this 5-up a lot cooler. You'll notice as we go through some of these armies that the more variety they have, the less special rules they have, because you're basically getting a little less on that front to get more on the variety, which is pretty cool. It gives a little more flexibility. You can go a little more specialized and get more special rules, or you can go more generic and get less. It seems like you'll still always get more than one, so it's not the baseline armies we had before, but it's pretty cool. A lot of people were suspecting that we just get open Rohan like we had before. That was never the case. This is as expected of what we would get in a generic-ish Rohan list. Is this a little more open, but not super crazy and not just flat out whatever you want. It's a little more limited with the Warrior options now, but because they cut out a few profiles to either Legacy or the Armies Middle-earth book, it's a little more contained. Makes it seem like it's a little easier to make some of these lists. They could be overwhelming for newer players, so this could be an easier way to get them in. Combined with the Warrior limitations, it definitely seems like they're catering a little more towards newer players, which, to be fair, that's what any new edition of a game typically does. They want more players to get in. They want to see what can we do to make it a little easier. And sometimes it might affect the upper-end competitive play. I know I'm personally a little disappointed in some of the options and the routes that they took, but I can get over it. Like, people that can't get over it, we're never going to get over any change, is my philosophy. So eventually we have to move on. The next army we have is the Road to Helm's Deep. So this is basically the Warg attack scene. You have Theoden, King of Rohan, with Snowmane for 95 points. Has to take it. These are all seemingly going to be mounted up, it looks like. Aragorn Strider at 185 points with his bow and Brago. You can pay 5 points for an Elven Cloak, so that's still optional. Legolas with a horse at 120 with an Elven Cloak for 5. Gimli, 100 points, Elven Cloak for 5. You'll see why Gimli's not technically mounted later. Hamma still doesn't have a horse, but he dies immediately, so who cares? But he's a hero of Fortitude. Gambling with horse at 75, no standard option. Captain of Rohan with horse at 65. Exchange heavy armor for heavy armor for 5, shield for 5. That's another thing I just noticed is previously models with armor that paid for heavy, they still paid 10. Didn't make sense because some models didn't have armor to begin with and they still paid 10. So now it's dialing down it to where it's 5 points. Warriors, you have Riders of Rohan for 14 points, Banner for 25, Throwing Spears for 2. Rohan Royal Guard are 16 with their horse, 2 more for Throwing Spears, so 18 all in. The Road to Helm's Deep must always contain Theoden, who is always the army's general, and Riders of Rohan do not count towards the army's bow limit. Ride for Ruin in the World's Ending, same bonus of +1 strength when they charge. Legolas and Gimli. If your army contains both Legolas and Gimli, then Gimli will start the game as a passenger on Legolas's horse and will use the rule for passengers. Whilst Gimli is mounted on Legolas's horse, Legolas increases his attacks to 3 and may use Gimli's might, will, and fate as if it were his own. Though he cannot use Gimli's might to improve to hit, to wound, or in the way tests when making a shooting attack. Additionally, if Gimli dismounts from Legolas's horse during Legolas's move, then after Legolas's activation has finished, Gimli may activate as normal even though the rules for passengers would not normally allow him to. Awesome. Legolas gets a bump for having Gimli, can't affect his shooting, makes sense. And then Gimli can move when he dismounts, which is awesome. Normally, you are heavily restricted against that. Being able to do that makes Gimli, you can drop him off and he can go charge something. That's awesome. He's not just stuck. Back on your horses. This is an awesome one. At the end of a friendly infantry hero model's move, with the exception of Gimli, if they are in base contact with a friendly cavalry warrior model who is not engaged in combat, then the warrior may give the hero their horse. Replace the warrior model with a suitable dismount and replace the hero with a mounted version of them. The warrior will be placed in the same place the hero was, and vice versa. If the hero would normally have a named horse such as Snowmane or Brago, then they will only count as riding a standard horse after this, using this rule. That is fantastic. We normally, if you take out the horse, done. But here, if you take out the horse, they go find a friend. Hey, I'm your king. Give me your horse. You're gonna sit there and ride around while I'm on foot? No. This is a cool rule. I really like it. I think it's super thematic. I honestly would not be opposed to that just being a rule for the game. It makes sense. What hero, when they lose their horse, is just going to stand there with the thumb up their butt? They're going to say, give me your horse. I need it more than you. I'm more important than you. It makes sense. Defenders of Helm's Deep. It is basically the exact same list. I'm glancing at it. Théoden as a hero of legend at 80 points with his heavy armor, 5 points for a shield. I think he had to take a shield by default before. Now he can just take it as an option. If he's not fighting, you don't really need it as much. Heroes of Valor, you have Aragorn, 165 with armor, no bow, which is notable. He had bow in every list before this, but no armor. Legolas at 100 points, 5 points for armor, 5 points for cloak. Gimli, 100 points, 5 points for cloak. Haldir, 85 with heavy armor and bow. So you can see there is Haldir did not get the Glorfindel or Elrond treatment where he has to take armor all the time. He gets to pick. He can pick 5 points for an elven cloak. Heroes of Fortitude, Gamling, 55, standard 40, as expected. Captain of Rohan, 45, exchanges heavy armor his armor for heavy, 5, shield 5. Galadrim Captain at 70, 5 points for an elbow. And then independent, you have Aldor, Rohan Archer, and Halas, son of Hama, as expected. The old man and the little kid. Warriors, Warrior of Rohan, as mentioned before, same warrior options, nothing's changed. Rohan Royal Guard, no horse option, but throwing spears. Galadrim Warrior, same options as before. We didn't see Galadrim before. Galadrim are 9 points, unchanged. Warhorn and Elfbow for 27. Banner for 25. Elfbow for 2. Shield and Elven Spear for 2. Elven Spear for 1. Shield for 1. Now you notice, they cannot combine bows and spears. That's going to be a common thing we're going to see. It's not a thing anymore. They've gotten rid of it. It's a bit disappointing. Definitely affects some armies, like elves, more than others. Some would call it a gamey thing to be converting models for war gear. I disagree heavily. I think it was cool to be able to customize your units a little bit, but if they're trying to focus in a little more on the baseline player getting into the game, taking things straight off a sprue kind of makes sense, but it could be done a little better. I think we would all of us existing kind of agree on that. Additional rules. Defenders of Helm's Deep army must include Théoden, King of Rohan, who is always the army's general. Makes sense. Only a maximum 33% of models in this army may have the Lothlorien keyword. Same thing as before. Allies till the end. Haldir treats both Aragorn and Théoden as a banner with a range of 6 inches. Additionally, whilst within 6 inches of either Aragorn or Théoden, Haldir automatically passes all courage tests and may reroll failed to wound rolls when making strikes. Cool. I think that's the same rule he has. I don't think this army's changed. Fall back to the keep. If this army is broken, friendly warrior models may gain a bonus of +1 to any courage test they're required to take. Additionally, if this army is broken, friendly warrior models within 6 inches of Théoden may reroll all failed courage tests. Awesome. Keeps them in the fight longer. Give them a volley. Friendly models increase the range of their shooting attacks by 6 inches, provided they have not moved that turn. The special rule does not apply to throwing weapons. That's a bit of a modification. Before, I think you could move. unless I'm mistaking it. But either way, it's basically the same list. I don't see it changing much, depending on individual profile changes. I don't think it's changed much. Next up, we have a Ride Out. So you can see we're kind of going along the path of Lord of the Rings here. Heroes of Legend, Théoden, fully kitted at 110 points. Aragorn at 185, armor and Brago. Legolas with armor and horse, with an option for Elven Cloak, 125 and 5 respectively. Something to note that I didn't pick up on was Legolas does not get his named horse that Éomer gives him. He rides around on him, but he does not get a special role. Gamling is at 75 points with his horse. He can pay for the Royal Standard. Captain of Rohan, same thing as always. Riders of Rohan, same thing as always. Banner and throwing spears for the normal cost. Rohan Royal Guard with horse, normal cost, 16 points, throwing spears for 2. Ride Out Army must always contain Théoden, who is this army's general. Riders of Rohan do not count towards the army's bow limit, so you can get a whole bunch of Riders of Rohan here, which will be key because Rohan Royal Guard are going to be elite, most likely. So they're probably only going to be able to be taken with Théoden and Gamling here. Special rules, now for Wrath, now for Ruin, and the Red Dawn. When a friendly cavalry model moves, it must charge if able. Additionally, on a turn in which a friendly cavalry model charges, they gain a bonus of +1 strength and may reroll any ones during a dual roll that turn. That's awesome. So they're getting bonuses to charge. They're getting a reroll of ones in the dual roll, which is new to my knowledge. I don't think there's anyone that focused on ones before. In addition to bringing the Royal Standard of Rohan, you can definitely get those winning fights. A leak has been mentioned, but not confirmed, that the +1 fight bonus is now just about charging. It no longer cares about range on Théoden. It's just part of the Riders of Rohan, and I don't know about the Royal Guards, but I would guess probably. The Horn of Helm Hammerhand shall sound in the deep one last time. Once per game at the start of any move phase, you can declare you are using the special rule. Until the end of turn, friendly cavalry models gain the Terror special rule. You are scared out of your mind. That makes sense. You're stunned. You're stunned. You're scared. They're riding out. For death and glory. Friendly models gain the Fearless special rule. Awesome. Now, what I suspect that means, I don't think Rohan Royal Guard are going to have Bodyguard anymore. I think they might get rid of that. Can't say for sure, but I think they might get rid of it. Otherwise, this is just mostly redundant. Most of the models in your list are probably going to be Rohan Royal Guard still. Even if they're limited elite-wise to Théoden and Gamling, you take 30 of them? 18 with Théoden, 12 with Gamling? You wouldn't need Fearless if they had Bodyguard. So, next up, we see the Riders of Éomer riding to the defense of Helm's Deep. Éomer is a hero of legend here. Shield and Firefoot with armor at 140 points. An optional 5-point throwing spears. Gandalf the White with Shadowfax is 225. He was 240 previously. And we know generally, and we'll get to the profile later because he was leaked, that armored horses are 25 points. Gandalf is 200 now. That's a 20-point decrease. That's pretty cool. And you'll see that even with that, and even with his maxed out points being 250, and you'll see why later, he's going to be worth that 250, I think. Heroes of Fortitude, Captain of Rohan with horse, normal war gear options, Riders of Rohan, normal war gear options. Riders of Éomer army must always include Éomer, who is the army's general. Riders of Rohan do not count towards the army's bow limit. Makes sense, they only have riders. Special rules. Look to the sun. Once per game at the start of any friendly activation phase, Gandalf can use this special rule so long as he is alive and on the battlefield. If he does, then until the end of turn, enemy models engaged in combat with friendly cavalry models that made a charge that turn, or supporting a combat against a friendly cavalry model that made a charge that turn. Huh? That's weird. Are cavalry going to be able to support? Interesting. In that case, they suffer a -1 penalty to their duel roll. Oh, sorry, I'm misreading that. Supporting a combat against models and their supports get the -1, not just those actually engaged. Okay, cleared up. Ignore me. I can't read. Ride for Ruin in the World's Ending. Friendly Rohan cavalry models gain a +1 to their strength on the turn with they charge, of course. To the King. Aimer may declare heroic combat each turn for free. Awesome. This list really lacked hitting power between the capping out at fight 3 because they didn't get the +1 because Thane's not in the list, and they did not give it the Thader's Guard treatment. It just kind of fell off. But now, if they have the +1 fight just baked in, regardless of range, regardless of Theta, and Aimer is going to be able to do combats every turn, it's got some teeth now. Didn't have that before. I think it's going to be a much more manageable list. Army of Edoras. So now we're going into the War of the Rohirrim. So fair warning, if you don't want to spoil the movie for yourself, because some of these lists will do that a little bit, then I would skip ahead. I'll try and leave some watermarks of when I'm getting to what, but I'd probably jump about 5 minutes ahead, and I'll be through the next 2 armies that are representative of the War of the Rohirrim. Heroes of Legend. Helm Hammerhand, King of Rohan. 160 points, a 25-point armored horse option. I think we're getting another Helm model. I would expect it. I'm questioning when that's going to come. They haven't announced it. But, I mean, Santa Helm can't be that model because he's Santa. Heroes of Valor. We have Haleth, Prince of Rohan. Comes in the starter kit. 100 points. 25 for the armored horse, so 125 total. Pretty good. I think that's a fair price for him. Hama at 70 with a 20-point horse. I think I guessed that he was actually going to be 70 with a 20-point horse. I think that's pretty good. 90 points total. It's okay. Freyloth, first Marshal of the Rittermark. You haven't seen that model. 100 points, 20 for a horse, 5 for a bow. Cool. We have Hera, Daughter of Helm at 70 points. 20 points for Ashir. Horse, I would guess. So she's going to have a special horse to take with her. Alwyn, Shield Maiden of Rohan. Another model we haven't seen. 80 points, 20 points for a horse. Captain of Rohan, 45 points, 20 for a horse. The normal options, exchanging armor for heavy, and a shield for 5 points apiece. At minor heroes, we have Leaf, Page of Helm. 50 points, 20-point horse. Looks like a smaller hero that's probably going to have some sort of speed-based thing. He's a page. Warriors of Rohan, normal war gear options we've seen. Riders and Royal Guards, same options we've seen. Additional rules, Riders of Rohan do not count towards the army's ball limit, so it looks like most Rohan armies will have that. 4th, Erlingas. Once per game at the start of any fight phase, your general can use this special rule if they charged in the preceding move phase. If they do, then until the end of turn, all friendly Rohan models within 12 inches of your general must reroll all failed to wound rolls when making strikes. So, straight off the bat, you don't have to take Helm as your hero, your leader. I hate, and I use hate very aggressively here, that I suspect the only reason that that is the case is because you don't have this Helm model. And they took the old Helm down, and they're going to release this down the road, and it's really disappointing that we don't have it up front. I suspect that would have been a cooler Helm to have than Santa. Protect the King. When a friendly Rohan hero charges, until the end of turn, friendly Rohan warrior models within 6 inches of them will automatically pass all courage tests they are required to take for charging an enemy with the Terror special rule. Pretty cool. It's like the Mahood army bonus, but rather than being engaged, it's just charging. It's pretty cool. Next up, we have the Defenders of the Hornburg. Heroes of Legend. Hera, the Bride of Death. Whoa. That is a very aggressive title right there. For 125 points, so quite a bit more than before, and a 5-point shield. Then you can take Helm Hammerhand, Wraith of the Hornburg, as 180 points. So he costs 20 points more than as a king to be like this. It's interesting. Here's a Fortitude, Alwyn, Shieldbane, and Rohan, 80 and 20. Again, Cap and Rohan with normal, Leaf, same as normal, and then Warriors and Riders. Helm Hammerhand may not include any warrior models in his warband. Whew. He's going alone out there. Defend the Hornburg. Friendly Rohan models gain the Dominant 2 special rule. So we saw earlier, Dominant means that you count as an extra X models while on an objective. So infantry models will count as 2 instead of 1. A Desperate Defense. Friendly Rohan warrior models must reroll to wound rolls of a natural 1 when making strikes. So you're desperate. You're running out of food. You're starving. You gotta kill him. So, Frenzy of the King. The start of the end phase of a turn in which Helm Hammerhand kills an enemy hero or monster. Enemy models within 3 inches of Helm must take a courage test in an order chosen by Helm's controlling player. If the test is failed, the model must move up to its move value directly away from Helm. He is scaring everybody. That's pretty cool. Next up, we jump back to the War of the Ring with Minas Tirith. We start off as a hero of valor, Denethor, Steward of Gondor, at 50 points. He's gone up a little. Don't know why, but hopefully it's something. Maybe he's got might. Boromir, Captain of the White Tower, 160 points. 20 points for the horse, 5 points for the shield. No banner there, and no lance, and we'll see why later. Faramir, Captain of Gondor, at 100 points with heavy armor. 20 points for a horse, 5 points for a shield. I think that's his same point cost. I hope he's not the same. Heroes of Fortitude, you have Irolas, Captain of the Guard, at 65 points. And then 60-point Captain of Minas Tirith. Doesn't state any war gear options for the captain. I would hope that that means that you have to select between things for free. Though it's odd that they decided in this case to do it that way. I hope that doesn't mean that captains can't be mounted. Then you have Warriors of Minas Tirith for 8 points, as we saw with the teaser. 26 points for the Warhorn and Shield, 25 for the banner, 2 points for Shield and Spear, 1 for bow, 1 for shield, as we expected. Knight of Minas Tirith at 15 points. Oh, they cost more. That's a jump. They were 13 before, 12 before. I think 13 with a shield. That's a jump. More than I would expect for being Fight 4 now. They can exchange their lance and shield for banner for 25 points. So it looks like they're getting the shield by default. And then, oh no, maybe they were 14 with the shield. Okay, so 15 makes sense. Citadel Guard at 8 points. 1 point for longbow, 1 point for spear. Okay. I would guess that they have to choose between them. Guard of the Fountain Court, 10 points. No option for shield. Most are generally assuming that that means they will not have D7. If your army includes Denethor, then he must be your general. He's not going to follow his sons, especially on Faramir. You seen that guy? Do you think the eyes of the White Tower are blind? Once per game during the priority phase, but before the roll for priority, Denethor can use this special rule so long as he is alive and on the battlefield. If he does, Denethor's controlling player automatically wins the roll to choose who has priority for that turn. If both sides have a special rule allowing them to do this, and both wish to use it in the same turn, players roll off as normal, and both special rules count as being used. The Palantir. We got a Palantir. That's okay. I don't think it's amazing. The Palantir was a useful game mechanic for Isengard before, but it wasn't typically a make or break. It was more a I can overextend knowing I have it. So maybe that helps in this army. Is there a captain here who still has the courage to do his lord's will? If your army includes both Faramir and Denethor, then whilst Denethor is alive and on the battlefield, Faramir will automatically pass all courage tests he's required to make. Additionally, whilst Denethor is alive and on the battlefield, when Faramir moves, he must charge if able to do so. So that was a special rule in Faramir's profile, now as an army rule. Now that I hope that means Faramir has his own new special rule to make up for that. That would be pretty useful. Faramir's charge. Whilst he has the cavalry keyword, before Faramir charges, make a note of where he begins his activation. Until the end of the turn, friendly Gondor cavalry models within 6 inches of where he begins his activation gain the Fearless special rule, and if they charge, gain a bonus of +1 of their fight value. Fight 5 on the charge knights. That's cool. I think that's pretty cool. It's kind of what Fornost has right now, although they're only getting to fight 4. So now fight 5. I think that's pretty cool. It's interesting. This army is more generic, like the Kingdom of Rohan, but it seems to be representative of both before and during the War of the Ring, because of course Boromir left. I'm not quite sure how far before, but it seems to be dialing a little more into Faramir's charge with the special rules, rather than Boromir. Boromir's just kind of there. But next up, we have something definitely during the War of the Ring, the garrison of Ithilien. So the question was going to be, is there going to be a garrison of Osgiliath for Faramir? And my response was kind of, well, that's what Rangers of Ithilien is. That's the list. They just went to Osgiliath, at least during the War of the Ring. And before that, it was kind of more of a reclamation. And we'll see, hint, hint, reclamation of Osgiliath. In Garrison of Ithilien, we have Faramir, Captain of Gondor, at 100 points. No war gear options. Does he have a bow by default? Looking back quickly, he pays for heavy armor to get to 100 points in Minas Tirith. Why is he 100 here? That's maybe a misprint. Who knows? Madril, Captain of Ithilien, for 60 points. He's up from 55. Damrod, Ranger of Ithilien, at 40. He's up, I believe. I think he was 30 before. Or no, I think he was actually like 25. But he was just basically a Ranger of the North. Captain of Minas Tirith for 60. Frodo at 80 with Mithril Coat, Sting, and an Elven Cloak. Samwise at 45 with an Elven Cloak. Smeagol is an Independent at 30. Notably, Frodo and Sam are still Fortitude there. Warriors of Minas Tirith, same points we've seen before. Knights, same thing. Ranger of Gondor, so here's a new one. Rangers of Gondor are 8 points, same as before. They can take a banner for 25 points. That's something we've not seen before. It's a little weird because it seems like they were trying to focus on what's out of the sprue. Well, Rangers don't have banners. I think that we're getting new Ranger models. A Warhorn for 25 points. Pretty cool. Now, someone pointed out that it's probably that they are going to use the Blackroot Vale Archers as Rangers. People already do that, so... Or vice versa. They use the Rangers as Blackroot Vale. So that's probably just... They're going to combine it. And they can take a spear for 1 point. Notably, Rangers of Gondor have bows. This is going to be one of the only bow spear models in the game. It's unusual. Osgiliath Veterans at 9 points. They can take a bow for 1 point, a shield for 1 point, or a spear for 1 point. I would guess, of course, that they have to pick. They've been upgraded. They were 8 points before. They're 9 now. I think they're going to be fight 5. Oh, no. Sorry. They're either going to be fight 5 or they're going to be fight 4 with the situational near Faramir. I would probably guess thematically it's going to be the situational, but we'll see. Garrison of Ithilien army must include Faramir, Captain of Gondor, who is always this army general. You may only include Sam if your army also includes Frodo. You may only include Smeagol if your army includes Frodo and Sam. Frodo, Sam, and Smeagol may not lead warrior models in this army. Okay, so it doesn't really matter what the tier is. Frodo, Sam, and Smeagol may either be deployed as a single warband with Frodo as the warband's captain or as part of Faramir's warband. So they're rolling back the errata that they made. But, and you'll see in a minute why, people are going to take them anyway. So it's optional. You don't have to take all 3. You don't have to bring them. A garrison of Ithilien army has a bow limit of 50% rather than the usual 33%. So that's a straight confirmation. Then bow limit's still 33, but making it 50 rather than maxed out bows based on Ranger heroes is preferable. I like that a lot. I myself, in the current tabletop simulator tournament that just ended, was playing Rangers of Ithilien, and I just did not want to subject myself to that army because I'm very anti-shooting. I like being up in the the mud, and I ran it half and half. That's generally how this army is going to be ran. So it's nice that I was kind of ahead of the curve with how I was building. Though it is a lot nicer that Rangers can take banners now because it's pretty cool. Experience trackers. At the start of each game, you may choose either woodland creature or mountain dwellers. Friendly Gondor models gain that chosen special rule for the duration of the game. Well, that's pretty cool. So before Rangers got woodland, no one else. Of course, the captains already had it, the named Ranger captains, but now it'll affect the Warriors of Minas Tirith as well. I think at last we understand one another, Frodo Baggins. This is a cool one. At the end of the game, you will score an additional victory point for each of Frodo, Sam, and Smeagol that are still alive, or have escaped the battlefield in scenarios where this applies. This can never take your total number of victory points for the scenario above 20. So that's where I said, you're not going to be forced to take them. You're probably going to take them. 3 victory points can swing a loss to a win. And depending on the new setup for major and minor victories, that can shift you from a minor to a major. That can prevent a draw. I think it's a really good rule, and I think it will be very effective to take them. I mean, I think they might be the same amount of points. What is it? I think they're 130 together right now. This is 125, 165. Or are they 160? I think it might be slightly more expensive. But that's okay. I think it'll be worth it. 3 victory points is massive. Not as massive as it would have been if we stayed at 12, but it's still pretty big. Reclamation of Osgiliath. Here we go. Boromir, Captain of the White Tower, screaming out for Gondor at 160 points. 40-point Banner of Minas Tirith, 20-point horse, 5-point shield. No lance option, and again, we'll see why later. Heroes of Valor, Faramir, Captain of Gondor at 100 points. Again, no war gear options, but still 100 points. So I'm a little confused in the Minas Tirith army list. I know they have the potential to change points per army. I'm not quite understanding what that's supposed to mean. Heroes of Fortitude, Madril, Captain of Athelion at 60, Captain of Minas Tirith at 60. We see Madril in the background during the scene. Warriors, Knights, Rangers, and Osgiliaths, same as we went over before. It's a very similar army list, but it's Boromir rather than just Faramir. Notably, Boromir is a hero of legend here, so he's up to be real leader, and Boromir must be the general. Remember today, little brother. While Boromir and Faramir are within 3 inches of each other, they may spend each other's might, will, and fate points as if they were their own. Awesome. Awesome. I think that adds just so much flexibility to Faramir's use. If the profile doesn't change that much, I think that will that'll carry the profile on its own. It's either a might, will, and fate battery for Boromir to keep Boromir chugging along, or Boromir and Faramir can play off of each other with slingshot heroics and all that. Cool. This city was once the jewel of our kingdom, so it will be once more. Friendly models gain the Mountain Dweller special rule. I don't know what that has to do with his speech, but sure. The flavor text is, though it was once a city of splendor, Osgiliath now lies in ruins. Those that fight within its crumbling streets will need to keep a steady footing. Okay. Sure. For Gondor. Once per game, at the start of any fight phase, Boromir can use this special rule as long as he is alive and on the battlefield. If he does, then friendly Gondor warrior models within 6 inches of Boromir gain a bonus of +1 to wound when making strikes until the end of the turn. This is treated as an active ability belonging to Boromir. I would assume that's in reference to certain spells shutting down active abilities. It's a pretty good rule. It only affects warriors, so it's probably going to bring their 6s down to 5s or 5s down to 4s. That's pretty good. On a good turn, that's awesome. It's only 6 inches, but if you have it nice and central, you really cut through a line. Next up, we have Atop the Walls. So this is something we were expecting and hoping was a Defenders of Minas Tirith type list. So this is Gandalf the White leading as a hero of legend. He can take Shadowfax for 25. He can take Pippin for 25. He can only be taken if Gandalf is riding Shadowfax. Hint, hint. Heroes of Fortitude, Irolas at 65. Captains of Minas Tirith at 60. Independent, you can take just Pippin on his own as a guard at the Citadel, 25 points, 5-point Elven Cloak. You can take Warriors of Minas Tirith, Knights, Citadel Guard, and then you can take the Gondor Battlecry Trebuchet, 100 points. I think that went down a fair bit. And then Flaming Ammunition for 10 points. Gandalf has to be the general. Fight to the last man. Friendly Gondor models within 12 inches of Gandalf the White automatically pass any courage tests they have to take. That's a wide berth. And it's always. That's cool. His army is basically fearless. Because 12 inches, we've seen that range on some heroes. It's passive. Return to your posts. Friendly Gondor models within range of an objective marker may reroll to wound rolls of a natural 1 when making shooting attacks or making strikes. Ranged or melee, they're going to hit hard. Or better. Not necessarily harder. Send these foul creatures into the abyss. Friendly Gondor models within 12 inches of Gandalf the White gain the Hatred Mordor special rule. Cool. They're going to be fighting those orcs on the walls. They're going to be pushing them back. They are pissed. Next up, we have one that people have been saying is insane, but I didn't even glance at it because I got it later than the rest. Return of the King. We have Heroes of Legend, Aragorn, Strider, 160 with 5-point cloak. Legolas, Gimli, same thing they've had. Armor, Elven Cloak for Legolas, Elven Cloak for Gimli. As 5-point upgrades, 100-point base. I don't think their profiles are changing. They might go up to fight 7, though. King of the Dead, 100 points. Herald of the Dead, 70 points. No option for a pendant. They might be removing that. Maybe they finally make the Heralds better. Warriors of the Dead are 14 points, 25-point banner, 2 points shield and spear. Can still take both. That's good. 1-point shield, 1-point spear. So their flexibility is still there outside the banner. Riders of the Dead are 25. I think they were 24 before. So that's a rounding change. Did they maybe go up in something? Maybe. I hope they got something to... 1 point matters for this list. They definitely made the war gear a little more optional just because the rounding on these lists kind of suck. Return of the King army must include Aragorn, Strider, and the King of the Dead. Aragorn is always the general. The Heir of Isildur. Aragorn does not have to pay any points for Anduril, Flame of the West. He automatically has it. This upgrade, it's free. Yep, as current. Friendly Dunharrow warrior models within 3 inches of Aragorn gain a bonus of +1 to their fight value. So Dunharrow, I don't know if they had that keyword before, but they have it now. +1 fight. Not a banner. Oh, fight 4 ghosts. That could be nasty. Whenever the King of the Dead charges into combat after the charge has been completed, he may spend a will point to use this special rule. This is Visions of Terror, sorry. If he does, enemy models within 3 inches of the King of the Dead must take a courage test in an order chosen by the King of the Dead's controlling player. If the test has failed, the model must move up to its move value directly away from the King of the Dead. Same as Helm. He's scary. They're going to run away. It's pretty cool. Defenders of the Pelennor. So this is a 2-page army because it's got a massive roster. Defenders of the Pelennor. Rohan warrior models can only be included in a warband of a Rohan hero. Gondor only in Gondor hero or Gandalf the White. Dunharrow warriors can only be in Dunharrow hero warbands or Aragorn, Legolas, or Gimli. Defend the White City. Each hero in your army can once per game declare heroic combat for free. It's not a massive role, but it'd be useful. Now, the reason that's their only army bonus is because, this army list. Heroes of Legend. You got Theoden kitted. You have Aragorn, who can pay for Anduril. I don't know why he'd be paying for it. I mean, it should either be free or forced, in my opinion. Elven Cloak for 5. Gandalf the White, Pippin and Shadowfax, 25 apiece. Pippin, of course, only with Shadowfax being bought. Heroes of Valor. Aemir kitted except his throwing spears, he can pay for them. Legolas can take armor and Elven for 5 apiece. Gimli, still 100, same as Legolas. King of the Dead, 100, as we saw. Eowyn, same, so armor, horse, and Merry. Eowyn, Shield Maiden, and Rohan. So Merry is a warrior option now. I'm sure that just is meant to be Durnhelm, but I guess they don't want to call it Durnhelm. I don't think she's referred to as Durnhelm in the movies, so Shield and throwing spears, 5 points apiece. Gambling with a horse can take the Royal Standard for 40. Cap on a Rohan, 65 with horse. Same warrior options. Herald of the Dead for 70. Irelos for 65. Captain of Minas Tirith for 60. Pippin for 25. 5 for a cloak. You can take Riders of Rohan. Royal Guard with horses. Warriors of the Dead, Riders of the Dead, Warriors of Minas Tirith, Knights of Minas Tirith, Citadel Guard, and Gondor Battlecry Trebuchet, all with the previous options we've talked about. That is a wide berth of a roster. You can take a lot of different tools there. And with the heroes being a little better costed, this looks really good. I think Théoden was 115 before, so he's dropped a few. It's a very wide roster, and I think it's going to be a lot of unique lists that come out of it. Men of the West. You can take Aragorn, King Elisar, so you see his new profile. He's 225. It's expensive. 25 points for an armored horse. So you get to pick. You can take him mounted now. You couldn't before in Men of the West. 250 points. And it's a big investment like before, but you have a little more flexibility. But you're going to take him on a horse every time. I don't see why you wouldn't. Now, this is the one people have been looking forward to. You can take Gwaihir in this army. So those soup lovers that liked allying Gwaihir to Minas Tirith, here you go. You can take Gandalf the White, Pippin and Shadowfax, same options, 250 all in, 25 apiece for the options. Aemir, fully customizable with all of his warrior options. So you can take him 110 base, or you can pay for everything. Legolas, fully customizable, can take his horse still. Gimli can take his cloak. Captain of Minas Tirith for 60. Captain of Rohan for normal warrior options, no horse option. Merry can take an elven cloak or a shield, 5 points apiece, 25 base. Pippin can take is 25, can take a shield for 5. Warriors of Minas Tirith and Warriors of Rohan with the normal options, and Great Eagles for 100. Men of the West Army must include Aragorn, who is always the general. If your army includes any cavalry models, then it cannot include any eagle models, and vice versa. Oh. So you cannot double dip. If you want Aragorn mounted, he's the powerhouse. You don't need eagles, and that's what they're saying here. Only Gwaihir can include Great Eagles in his warband, and Gwaihir can only include Great Eagles in his warband, so you can't mix and match there. Gandalf the White does not have his Staff of Power in this army. He's broken. That's pretty crappy, actually. I don't think you're taking him in this army. Special rules. For Frodo, once per game at the start of a fight phase, Aragorn can use this special rule as long as he's alive and on the battlefield. If he does, then friendly non-eagle models within 6 inches of Aragorn get a bonus of +1 fight, and may reroll to wound rolls of a natural 1 when making strikes till the end of the turn. This is treated as an active ability belonging to Aragorn. It's pretty good. This is what it had before. Now you have the rerolls, though. I don't think they had that. The White Wizard. Gandalf may reroll a single d6 in a casting roll mix, so he doesn't have the free, but now he is rerolling. To me, that means he doesn't get the reroll still. I mean, we have his profile, so we know that. But it's disappointing. I was hoping he was going to get Lord of the Astari. This day we fight. So long as Aragorn is alive and on the battlefield, friendly models automatically pass any courage test they're required to make. It's the Army Fearless. The Final Stand. Friendly infantry models within 3 inches of a friendly hero gain the Dominant 2 special roll. So they're holding the hills, they're getting surrounded, they're holding their ground. Pretty cool. Numenor. Here we go. This is the hard one to stomach. Elendil, High King of Gondor in armor as a hero of legend. 175. That's it. No horse, no shield. We don't know what the profile is like. He's cheaper, I think. It's very disappointing that he's on foot. Because Isildur, Hero of Valor, is 130 points, horse for 20. He can take a horse. The One Ring is free, but he can only take it if you do not have Elendil. That's what he has now. That's not changed. Captain Numenor for 70 points. No horse option for Captains of Numenor. No secondary hitters. You only have Isildur. Warriors of Numenor are 9 points, up from 7, I think, or 8. They are certainly fight 5. That's what I think. I think they're fight 5 now. That's what I would expect. Alternatively, maybe they've got upgraded armor. I don't think they are. I think they're fight 5. Shield and Spear for 2 points. Longbow, no longer a bow, for 1 point. So this is strength 3 rather than a strength 2. And a shield for 1 point. Blood of Numenor. Friendly Numenor models gain the resistant to magic special rule whilst they are within 6 inches of a friendly unique Numenor hero model. Same as we had, though it doesn't notably name the specific Numenorian hero models. Maybe they are making more at some point. They're not bringing Anarian, Die on this Hill. They don't have the licensing for it. People keep claiming it's just because they don't want to do it. They don't have licensing. The Second Age was never licensed. How the movies got away with the Last Alliance thing, I think it's just it was a necessary exposition. They probably made some sort of deal. They didn't get the licensing for the Second Age. It's never been done. Friendly Numenor models gain a bonus of +1 to any courage test they have to take as the Resolve of Men. It's pretty cool. That's what they had as their army bonus. The Line of Kings. If they have the unique keyword, your general gains the General Hunter special rule. We don't know what that is yet. Additionally, your general must always accept a heroic challenge directed at them. It's cool. If you've seen the leaks for Heroic Challenge, and it's not something I was planning on covering, I'm much more focused on the armies right now. It is a awesome heroic. It is no longer going to be the least used heroic in the game. It's going to be massively used. I could see it happening most games very easily. Granted, if your army just doesn't do it, sure, but I think any army with a fighting hero will do it. They'll go for it every time. Next up, Linden, new army. We see now a split between Rivendell. It is no longer just Rivendell. There are 2 lists. So one is Linden and one is Rivendell. Splitting based on timeline a little bit. So Linden is Gil-galad leading as the Hero of Legend and 175 points. Again, no horse or shield. Gone. They didn't make a model. Doesn't have it. Personally disappointing. You can still take Elrond. Comes in this at 170. You can take a 20-point horse. It's pretty standard. Círdan is 75 now. I think he was 80 before, so they bumped him down 5 points. I wonder why. Probably because casting's worse. Rivendell Captain at 70. He can take specifically a horse, bow, and elven lance. I would guess that means elven maid for 30 points. Or you can take a shield for 5. Or actually, I think you can combine everything, and they probably still have Expert Rider. Because heroes can still combine multiple options of 4. It's only warriors that are limited to 1. Rivendell Warriors are 9 points, so they're no longer High Elves. I don't know why they're called Rivendell Warriors and Linden, because it defeats the purpose of them separating it to Linden. They'll just make it one list. Rivendell Warrior is 9 points, same as before. Banner, 25. Elf Bow for 2. Shield and Elven Spear for 2. Shield for 1. See, this is where it gets a little weird, because Lothlorien has Warhorn options. You don't have it anymore. Why? Sometimes the model limitations don't make sense here, and they could have did a different way, and I wish they would have. This is one of those cases. Rivendell Knights at 20 points. I think they were 21 before. They can exchange an Elven Lance for a banner for 25 points, and they can take a shield for 1. So I think they were 21 before. Now they're 20, so they are a point less. So Elrond's profile as the example in the book was leaked. He doesn't have the special rule related, or the notation, not special rule, related to knights being with outside the bone limit. So that might be why they're not going to be spammable. It's possible. You have to have Gil-galad here, and he has to be your leader. So it's a common thing we're seeing in all these armies. There is a defined leader in most of these armies. They are definitely themed around specific people being in charge. Gato High, Lethio, Ephelion. I can't speak Elvish. Saved my life. Whilst within 3 inches of a friendly hero, not 6 inches anymore, friendly warrior models may reroll all failed to hit rolls when making a shooting attack, providing they didn't move in the preceding move phase. So you stay still, you get to reroll, but only 3 inches, no longer 6. You can't do it with the whole army. And I think that's okay. With the new modifications to not having bow spears, you're not going to have as much of a wide group of archers. They're going to be much more centered around certain areas. So I think that's fine. Friendly, the power of the Noldor. Friendly models within 6 inches of Gilgalad gain the resistant to magic special rule. Pretty cool. He's keeping them safe. Pretty cool. Rivendell. You have Elrond as a hero of legend, 170 points, 20 for the horse. Arwen as a hero of fortitude, 70. Asphalloth for 20. Lindir, no more horse option at 70. I don't think he has armor anymore. I think 70 is his base cost it right now. So he's losing his armor. Rivendell Captain, same as before. Bilbo, 45 points. He's an aging hobbit here still. 45 points, 15 for Mithril Coat, 5 for Sting, and the One Ring is free. So I guess sometimes they're noting the One Ring, sometimes they're not noting the One Ring. That's interesting. That begs the question, do some of the earlier Frodo lists not have the ring usable? Can he not use it? Even though he has it, is he not allowed? Warriors, Rivendell Warriors, same as before. Rivendell Knights, same as before. If your army... so, actually, here we go. If your army includes Elrond, then Rivendell Knights do not count towards this army's bow limit. So you can run Rivendell as Rivendell Knights. Protection of Imladris. Friendly models gain a bonus of +1 to any courage test they are required to make. Cool. Defensive stance. So this is... Friendly elf models may re-roll to wound rolls of a natural 1 when making strikes as long as they have not moved during the preceding move phase. So if you stay safe and together, you're going to get to re-roll. It's pretty cool for not having fainting anymore. Invoke the Burnin. Once per game, so long as either Elrond or Arwen are alive and on the battlefield, you may use this special rule at the start of any move phase in which your army is broken. Place a 25mm marker anywhere within 12 inches in line of sight of Elrond or Arwen, and then make a d6 for each enemy model. Roll a d6 for each enemy model within 3 inches of that marker. If the roll is greater to or over the strength of the model, or is a natural 6, then the model immediately suffers a strength 4 hit, and if survives, will be knocked prone. Remove the marker after every affected enemy model has been rolled for. So it's a souped up wrath that comes at a distance. It's pretty cool. I'm concerned that the rolling is going to get tedious. You have to make 2 rolls for this, potentially, for each model. Maybe more if they're mounted. I don't know how this is going to interact with mounted models either. It normally specifies that horse and rider take the hit or the roll, but doesn't say. Then we finally have this one, the Last Alliance. Heroes of Legend, Elendil and Gilgalad, same as before, no war gear options. Isildur, with his same options, only can get the ring if it doesn't have Papa or Gilgalad. Elrond, same options. Captain Numenor, Rivendell Captain, same options. Warrior of Numenor, Rivendell Warrior, same options. Last Alliance must include at least 1 unique Numenor hero and at least 1 unique Rivendell hero. So you can take Isildur and Elrond to get the ring for Isildur. Numenor Warriors can only be included in the Warband of Numenor heroes, and the same for Rivendell. Whirl of Steel. This is a cool one. Whenever a friendly Rivendell model that is not engaged in combat is charged, they may roll a d6. On a natural 6, the model that charged them immediately suffers a wound. If this model was a cavalry model, roll a further d6. On a 1 to 3, it will be the mount that suffers the wound. On a 4 up, it will be the rider that suffers the wound. This is considered an active ability. Cool. That's awesome. If you get charged early, you're less inclined to be calling heroic moves. Things charge you. If they want to tie up multiple things, it's a lot harder. They're taking more potential hits. I think it's a very good rule. It might be too good of a rule, but I don't think there's a way for them to change it if it comes that it's too powerful. But it's definitely saying that elves are the front line here. Numenorians in the back. Before Last Alliance combinations of Rivendell and Numenor, some people liked one, some people liked the other, of one type in the front, one in the back. Some like mixed. Now it's very solidly saying that you want elves in front. There were some who resisted. Friendly models may reroll any dice that roll a 1 when making courage tests. Cool. Strength of Numenor. Whilst being supported by or supporting a friendly Rivendell model, friendly Numenor models may reroll to wound rolls of a natural 1 when making strikes. Cool. So, yeah, Numenorians are in the back. Elves in front, Numenorians behind. Safe bet. Bows to the side. Now that there is a combined army, you can double down on that bow contingent, but they're going to be to the side. You probably still do elves. I mean, they literally cost the same now. They're both 9-point base. The 1-point difference of a longbow versus an elf bow maybe matters. I don't know. I'd rather take the 3 up to shoot, personally. Next up, more elves. Lothlorien. Okay. Galadriel is 125 points. I think that's... She was 120 before? Or 130? Oh, she's 130 before. She's 5 point less. Okay, so that's accounting for casting getting worse. Mirror for 25. Same thing. Heroes of Valor. Celeborn, Lord of Lothlorien for 125. He was 130 kitted out before. There's no longer war gear options. Probably comes with everything now. That would make sense. You wouldn't take him as a pajama. You'd take him kitted. He was a pretty solid warrior while kitted. He just still was a little bit expensive. 125, a 5-point difference. Could be worth it. Depends what his special rules are. Here's a Fortitude. Haldir. Full optionality. As we've seen, Galadriel Captain, 75 for a bow. No option for a shield anymore, so I guess they can only be taken with bow. And no horse. Lothlorien Captain, 65. That's a Wood Elf Captain. Galadriel Warrior, same thing we've seen before. Lothlorien Warrior, Wood Elf Warrior, same thing we've seen. I'm interested in why it's called Elven Throwing Weapons versus regular throwing weapons. I guess we'll see. I don't think it specified anything in the chart that got leaked, but friendly Lothlorien magic models gain the resistance to magic special rule. They say great sources, same army bonus they have right now. The dwarf breathes so loud we could have shot him in the dark. Friendly Lothlorien models may re-roll the hit rolls of a 1 when making a shooting attack if the target of the shooting attack is unable to see them do the effects of an elven cloak. So really doubling down on the pajama elves, which, I mean, I know Jay loves them, so of course, it makes sense. So you want to be hidden, you want to be shooting. That's the way to play it, looks like. Next up, one that I've been wanting to look at that I didn't yet because I got it later than the rest, Fangorn. Hero of Legend Treebeard, Merry & Pippin 10 points, same thing. Beachbone and Birchseed are 150 each instead of 160 and 140 now. They're the same. Ents are 100. They were 120, so they've gone down. A Fangorn army must always contain Treebeard, who is always this army's general. Okay, so you can't dip down into the lower, you have to take Treebeard. So it's a minimum 190 point list. Don't be hasty. Friendly Ent models are completely unaffected by magical powers that would attempt to move them or prevent them from activating movement. Same thing we had. One with the Forest. Friendly Ent models are completely unaffected by the Call Winds, Nature's Wrath, Wrathburnen, and Withering Vines' magical powers. As you know, Withering Vines is a new power. I'm not going over those leaks, but it's a pretty cool one. So they're unaffected by those. Makes sense. Beech, Oak, Chestnut, Ash. Many have come. Good, good, good. Whenever you include an Ent warrior in your army, you may assign one of the 4 types of Ent to it as listed below. You must split the types of Ent as evenly as possible. So if you want to have a second one of one type of Ent, you must first have one of each of the types. If you want to have a third of one type of Ent, you must first have 2 of each of the types, and so on. So the 4 types are Beech. The Ent may re-roll to wound rolls of a natural 1 when making strikes. Pretty cool. Oak. The Ent improves its wound characteristics to 4, so there's still going to be 3 base. Chestnut. The Ent gains the Mighty Blow special. Cool. Ash. The Ent improves their shoot value to a 3-up and can still use its Throw Stone special rules even if it has moved that turn, but not if it has moved over half its move value. So a lot of us have been talking about how the White Dwarf had an article back in the day that you could customize your Ents. And granted, there were a lot more possibilities than this, but these are 4 really solid rules. This is pretty cool. I would honestly say, so thinking out loud, if I were to take, say, an 800 point list, so it's Treebeard, Merry, and Pippin, always, I would take the two named. So that's 200, 500, three regular Ents. I'd probably take Beech, uh, Oak, and probably Chestnut. I don't know that I would take Ash. I think Ash is more for if you can go to really high points and you focus a little more on shooting. What we're expecting is that the Ents have the dominant special rule. So something like Oak holds an objective, Chestnut goes after heroes, Beech might go with Chestnut to go after heroes. And of course, we don't know what Beechbone and Birchseed have. And maybe they're the same, maybe they're different. We don't know. I think it's pretty cool. I think it gives them a lot more flexibility, especially, as we said, with Monster Mash and Dominant. I think it's a good rule. Again, Mounsters. The Eagles. The Eagles are coming. Very light roster, but increased from the Misty Mountains of what they had before. Gwahir, 150 points as a hero of legend, is unchanged. You have two warrior options now. Great Eagle is 100, same as before. Fledgling Great Eagle at 75. You can finally build it out to the even 50 and 100 point lists. It's possible now. You aren't locked into only playing on the 50 point the 50 point midsections, 550, 650, 750. You can play at 700 and 800. You can do it. You can do it now. The Eagles may not include more fledgling Great Eagles than Great Eagles. So they're meant to round out a list. So instead of taking three, say you're building for 700, Squire is 150. You take two fledglings, you get to 300, and then four Great Eagles. So fledglings are always going to be less. You're probably only going to take two at any point. I don't expect you to take more than two at any point. The Eagles are coming. Friendly Eagle models gain a bonus of +1 to their strength on a turn with their charge. Army bonuses before. Piercing Cry. This is a good one. This is a very good one. Once per game, at the start of any move phase, Gwahir can use this special rule, so long as he is alive and on the battlefield. If he does, then enemy models within 6 inches of Gwahir cannot move during that turn, but may otherwise act normally. Wow. That is a powerful ability. It might only be once per game, but that could be a game-deciding thing. If you suddenly lock down certain things from getting to an objective, or picking up an objective and running, game-changing. I'm saying it now, it is game-changing. It is going to be one of the strongest abilities. Now, obviously, it's going to be held down by the fact that you'll still be light on models, but of course, Dominant will help with that a little bit. But I think that can change up games. And lastly, this one we don't have a roster for, but we can generally guess what it's going to be. This is the Realms of Men. So the Realms of Men are a generic version of man lists. And, I mean, hopefully we get it for other ones, too. That'd be pretty cool. I'd like to see a dwarf one, too, when down the line. Basically, what it works is you only have generics. You have Kings of Men. They're always heroes of legend, and they can include warrior models in their warband from any army list as long as they share the same faction keyword. So, for example, if you're taking a King of Rohan or a King of Minas Tirith, they can take warriors of Rohan or warriors of Gondor and in their warbands. The general of the warband, of the army rather, must be the one that shares the most common faction keyword. So if you mostly have Rohan people, your King of Men with the Rohan will be your general. Realms of Men may not have two Kings of Men with the same faction keyword. However, they can have multiple Kings of Men with different faction keywords. So you can't take two Kings of Gondor. You can take a King of Gondor, King of Rohan, I assume a King of Arnor, maybe a King of Numenor. It's possible. You can't take any unique characters, but you can include hero models without the unique keyword as long as they share a faction with the King of Men already in the army. So if you have Gondor, you can take Captains of Minas Tirith. And they can take the same models from their faction in their warband. It's a way to customize your armies and make something that suits you. That's pretty cool. All right, we're a long ways in. We're not done yet. We have think it's 18 evil armies to cover. But a lot of them share units, so it should be hopefully pretty quick. But let's go. So evil side, starting with Barad-dûr. The Dark Lord Sauron is still 400 points. Hero of Legend. Hero of Valor, the Witch King of Angmar is 120. He is locked in to 2 attacks, 2 might, 14 will, and 2 fate. I'm interested in if he's customizable at all anymore. I don't know that he is. I think it will be the list that are dictating how many he has, because you'll see in a little bit that every list specifies how much he can take. It doesn't give you a range. I don't know why. He can take a horse for 20 and a Morgul Blade for 10. Ringwraiths, 90 points, 2 attacks, 1 might, 10 will, 1 fate. You're locked in. Again, horse and Morgul Blade. The Ringwraiths can now take Morgul Blades, not just the Witch King. That's a cool change. I like that. It makes it so it's not quite a one-off. You can weaken one guy with 1 Morgul Blade because they're scared, and then do it with another. You can take a Mordor Orc Captain for 45, a Mordor Troll Chief for 150, which I think is up. I think they were 140 before. I think it was 100 for a Mordor Troll. I mean, we'll see that in a second. Or they changed it. Oh, wow, they changed that too. It was 100 for a Mordor Troll and 40 for a Captain. It looks like they shifted the points a little bit. Mordor Orc Drummer is 30 points, same as before. Mordor Orc Warrior is still 5 points. Awesome. So it's probably the exact same profile. 25-point Banner, 1 point Orc Bow, 1 point Shield, 1 point Spear, 1 point two-handed weapon. No more combinations. Mordor Warg Rider, 11 points, same as before. Shield and Throwing Spears for 2, 1 for Orc Bow, 1 for Shield, and 1 for Throwing Spears. So you can customize them more. I mean, the kit's a lot more customizable on them. You can take them Throwing Spears, no shield. The shields are all separate. I have them sitting in my other room on my shelf. Not built for that reason, which I'm glad I did that now. Next up, Mordor Troll is 90 points. They dropped him 10 points. And with the guesstimated monster changes, that's awesome. They might be usable. Mordor War Catapult is 150. I think that's down from 160 or up from 140. No, I think it's down from 160. Severed Heads are 20. Flaming Ammunition are 10. I think Severed Heads were 10 before, so they might have nerfed those. They weren't really a strong pick. They were kind of a meme take. Additional rules. Sauron has to be in the army, has to be the general. Power of the Ring cannot be undone. As long as Sauron has at least 3 wounds remaining, a Barad-dûr army can never count as being broken. Should Sauron have 2 or fewer wounds, it will break as normal. If Sauron dies, it will immediately be broken. So same as before, it's reliant on him being alive. Though I think that was part of his profile before, if I'm not mistaken. Teaming with Orcs, Sauron's warband may include 24 models rather than the usual 18 for a Hero of Legend. So same upgraded size. Victory is at hand. So long as Sauron is alive and on the battlefield, friendly Orc models gain a +1 to any courage test they are required to take. Pretty cool. The Black Riders. So they're still here. Still here. But much more specified. The Witch King is 140 points with 2 attacks, 2 might, 14 will, 2 fate, and a horse. Morgul Blade for 10 points. Ringwraith is 2 attacks, 1 might, 10 will, 1 fate with a horse for 110. Morgul Blade for 10 as an option. This army may only ever include a maximum of 9 models, 8 Ringwraiths and the Witch King, and it must always have the Witch King and him be the general. Terror in the Night. Enemy model within the range of multiple friendly Ringwraith model Harbinger of Evil special rule will suffer a -2 penalty to their courage rather than a -1. So it's no longer scaling. It's just flat out -2 instead of -1. Honestly, thank God. I only played against it a couple times. It's just not fun. I beat it, but it wasn't fun. And that's what the armies don't need to be stupidly dumb, broken. Not broken in a unbeatable way, but broken in a just stupid mechanic way. It was a good change. Screech of the Nazgul, friendly Ringwraith model, can use this special rule at the start of their activation. If they do, choose an enemy model within 12 inches of the line of sight of the Ringwraith. The chosen model is immediately subject to the Transfix magical power, which will count as being cast on a 6. They may make a resist test as normal. A Ringwraith model that uses this special rule cannot also cast a magical power during their activation. Only a single ring wraith can use the special roll each turn, and each ring wraith can only use it once per game. So it's nerfed because channeled gone. It used to be channeled transfix that you would get. It's gone, so it's just transfix. It's worse. I'll say that for I think the army is worse, but I'm okay with it. I'm personally, I'm not a fan of hero hammers. I just don't think they're interactive in a lot of cases. Black Riders are no exception. But they get other bonuses that we'll see here, I think. Maybe. Let me see. The Will of Sauron, friendly ring wraith models do not lose a will point for being engaged in combat as per the Will of Evil special rule. So Will of Evil looks to be the same. They have the same rule there. Hunt the Ring Bearer. At the start of a fight phase, before any other heroic actions are declared, a single friendly ring wraith may declare a heroic combat for free. This can only be done if, should the heroic combat be successful, the ring wraith could charge the ring bearer. If the heroic combat is successful, the ring wraith must charge the ring bearer, though any other models involved in the heroic combat may act as normal. If both players declare heroic combat in the fight phase in which the special rule is used, this player will automatically win the roll-off to see which heroic combat goes first. However, this heroic combat declared by the special rule must be the one chosen to go first. Okay. So that one is a bit of a commentary on a really funny tactic, and in a lot of ways a dumb tactic. It was possible to declare a heroic action against a model who's declared a heroic action against you. My prime example is Glorfindel, who charged down an Oathmaker and called a heroic combat, because he will kill the Oathmaker if he wins. The Oathmaker saying, well, I'm going to die anyway, called heroic combat. And then it goes to a roll-off. And the way that it was FAQ'd was because the Oathmaker, who then rolled out won the roll-off, it's his heroic combat. It's no longer Glorfindel's. Glorfindel's heroic combat goes away. So if he wins, it means nothing. And if he kills me, it means nothing. And that was a really dumb situation. So this is more of a commentary. Yeah, if you're doing this special thing, like you're gonna go first. You are guaranteed to go first. I think that's a good idea. Personally, I would kind of think that they should do away with that part of heroic combat in general. Just if you're fighting someone and both call heroic combat, it shouldn't matter who's happening, in my opinion. Both fighting. Next up, we have the alternative to the Black Riders. We have Wraiths on Wings, an army list that everyone seeing it thus far has said is completely unnecessary. It's Flying Circus. Heroes of Valor, Witch King, 170 points, 2 attacks, 2 might, 14 will, 2 fate with a Fellbeast. He can pay for the Crown of Morgul for 25, he can upgrade his Fellbeast to Armored for 20 more, and he can pay for a 10-point Morgul Blade. Ring Wraiths are 170 as well. 2 attacks, 2 might, 14 will, 2 fate with a Fellbeast. So they are the same points as the Witch King here. They can also upgrade their Fellbeast to Armored for 20 and a 10-point Morgul Blade. Can only ever have 9 models, 8 Ring Wraiths, and the Witch King. Does not have a requirement to have the Witch King as your leader, which is cool. It's not necessary. I mean, he wasn't necessarily doing much to identify if it was him or not, and that's probably what that's meaning. Full Force Charge. The first time a friendly monster model charges during its activation, it may choose to use this special rule. If it does, each model it has charged suffers a single Strength 5 hit. Cavalry models suffer these hits on both the Mount and the Rider. If after these hits have been resolved, the monster is no longer engaged in combat, it may continue its activation, and may even charge again if it wishes. Though if it does, any subsequent charges will not confer this effect. It's a strong weapon. Basically what it is. Strafing Attack. As I noted earlier in the TTS Discord, this is Pluck as it should have been. At the end of a friendly monster's model move, if it is not engaged in combat, you may choose a single enemy model that is not engaged in combat that lies in the direct path between where the monster began its move and where it finished its move. The path is the same width as the monster model's base. The chosen model suffers a Strength 5 hit, and if it survives, will be knocked prone. Cavalry models suffer these hits on both the Mount and the Rider. I would be much more okay with Warbats and their Pluck being automatic if it had to not be engaged at the end. Because the dumber thing is, like, you fly it, and then they pluck someone also. Unless I'm reading the rule completely wrong, and they're not allowed to be charged. But I don't think I am. It's one of those rules I don't see very often, so it could just be me making stuff up. Next up, we have the Army of Gothmog. Gothmog is a hero of legend, 120 points. He's down. He was 130 before. His warg is 20, though, and his shield is 5. So he's 145. He was a 145 kitted anyway before, so guess if you want him on foot, he's better. Or cheaper. Here's a Fortitude. Guritz is 65. He's up. He got raised. Gothmog's Enforcer is 55. Morannon Orc Captain at 55. Shield for 5. Two-hand weapon for 5. Morannon Orc Warrior is 8 points now. So they were 7. They're 8 now. Is that a fight bonus? Might be. You can take a banner for 25. Shield and Spear for 2. Shield for 1. Spear for 1. That's how you can build the kit out. No surprises there. Mordor Troll is 90. War Drum Mordor 25. War Catapult 150. Severed Heads for 20. Flaming Ammunition for 10. You must have Gothmog, and he has to be your leader. The Destruction of Men. Range of Gothmog's The Age of Men is over. Special rule is increased to 12 inches. Additionally, the range of Gothmog's The Time of the Orc has come. Special rule is battlefield wide. Same thing as before. I expect that to be the same. This army looks almost identical. Tyrannical rule. Friendly orc models may benefit from Gothmog Standfast. That I think is new. Ruthless Assault. Friendly models may re-roll to wound rolls of a natural 1 when making strikes against a trap model. It's not that good. This army is about the same, and it was always kind of mid. I don't think it's that great. Notably, and someone already disagreed with me and said they're just going to take over captains. You might have a use for Gothmog's Enforcer because they legacied the other models. They took out Zagdush and Goroth, so now you just don't have a choice. You probably... it's not a list that I think will do amazing in general. So at that point, you might as well take the Enforcer for a little more flexibility of what you can do with Gothmog. That's what I think it is. I don't think you take the captains over him. They're the same point cost. I think you just take them. Legions of Mordor. So this is the generic-ish Mordor list. Heroes of Legend. The Witch King of Angmar is 245. 3 attacks, 3 might, 18 will. Something no one thinks is necessary. 3 fate with the Crown of Morgul and an armored Fellbeast. He has to take it. Normally, the Witch King at peak would be 200 flat. That's the optimal way most people would take him. You'd take him 315, 3, Crown on a Fellbeast. Now you're paying an extra 45 points. It kind of feels trashy. Take a Morgul Blade for 10 points. You can take a 2-handed weapon of any type, so doesn't matter what type, for 5 points. You can take a Ring Wraith, 2 attacks, 2 might, 14 will, 2 fate, with a Fellbeast for 1/7. You can take it capped out. Morgul Blade for 10. Gothmog, same thing as Army of Gothmog. The Mumak War Leader for 400 points. You can take the War Leader in the Legions of Mordor. So this seems to be representative of a total Pelennor assault force. This is everybody. Everybody you see in the movie, at least. Guritz for 65, Enforcer for 55, Morannon Orc Captains. Haradrim Chieftain for 50 points, both for 5. A War Mumak with all its normal upgrades. They all look to be the same cost. Easterling Captain for 60. Morannons, same cost. Troll, same cost. Catapult, same cost. Haradrim Warriors are 6 points. 25 for a banner, 25 for a warhorn, and a point for a bow or a point for a spear. Easterling Warriors are 8 points, which I think is unchanged. You can take a banner for 25. I'm going to skip one for a second. You can take a bow for 1 and a shield for 1. You can take for 2 points a shield and an Easterling halberd. The captains were the ones that had that before, not the warriors. The warriors had pikes. I think they're getting rid of Easterling pikes. I think they might have learned it's a problem with the Dragon Emperor. I think. I don't know for sure, but it would be an interesting change. Additional rules. Mordor warrior models can only be included in the warband of a Mordor hero. Same for Harad, same for Easterling. So I don't know how you're going to mix this army. This seems like a weird army to build. The only special rule, bring the city to its knees. Friendly hero models may reroll to wound rolls of a natural 1 when making strikes against an enemy hero model. So you pay for the variation by a lack of special rules and a limitation of warbands. It's a little weird. Like, I think if the Witch King and the Ring Wraiths were customizable, this army would be better. I think it might be one of the worst ones by far, honestly. It might be the worst one, actually. It's just, it's weird that they're limiting the customization of the Nazgul. They could be a lot stronger if they were customizable. You could build it to your army and not feel bad. But next up, we have Minas Morgul. Ooh. You have the Witch King as a hero of legend. It's 150. 3 attacks, 3 might, 18 will, 3 fate. And then you can buy all of his normal options. Armored Fellbeast or Fellbeast, 70 and 50 respectively. 25 for the Crown of Morgul, 20 for a horse, 10 for Morgul Blade, 5 for two-handed weapon. No more armored horse. It's gone. It's fine. No one paid for it anyway. Ring Wraith, locked to 2 attacks, 1 might, 10 will, 1 fate. Then Fellbeast for 50, no armored Fellbeast option. Horse for 20, 10 for Blade. You can take a Mordor Orc Captain for 45, Morannon Orc Captain for 55, Shield the two-handed weapon for 5 point apiece. Mordor Orc Taskmaster at 45. The Taskmaster is still alive. Orc Drummer for 30. You can take Mordor Orcs or Morannon Orc Warriors, Mordor Trolls, and Spectres. Deadmarsh Spectres. They're now just Spectres. Cool. It made absolutely no sense they were an Angmar. I hope they're not an Angmar. They should never have been an Angmar. Except that they're going to call them Spectres now, and they're probably going to be an Angmar. But at least they're not called Deadmarsh Spectres, and then I don't have to have a lore nerdgasm. A Minas Morgul army must always contain the Witch King, and it has to be the leader. Yeah. The Dead City, Mordor Orc Captains and Mordor Orc Warriors gain the Blades of the Dead special role. Now, we went over this with Razgosh. That is not referencing keywords, that is referencing the profile. So it is not Morannon Orc Captains, and it is not Morannon Orc Warriors. It doesn't include them. It is specifically Mordor Orc Captains and Mordor Orc Warriors. That's it. Blades of the Dead, we don't know how it's interacting with the new courage values, but should be fine. Call of Morgul. The enemy army contains a ring bearer. They'll suffer a -1 penalty when rolling for Sauron's Will. I expect that to be the same type of roll, so that's pretty cool. Very thematic roll. Not very useful most of the time. Lead through fear. Friendly orc models within 3 inches of a friendly spirit model automatically pass courage tests when attempting to charge a model with the terror special roll. I like that. So it's doubling down on orcs, making things terrified of them, charging terrifying things, and killing them. I think it's an okay list. I don't think it's amazing simply on the earlier fact of the Ring Wraiths and Witch King being locked into certain stat values. It's just like 18 will for the Witch. You don't want 18 will. It's just, you don't want it. It's not necessary. Cirith Ungol. Shagrat, Captain of Cirith Ungol, is 110. He doesn't have any options anymore. In this list, at least. So everyone noted on the legacy thing, Shagrat War Leader was legacied. I think that was more commentary on the fact that he's not going to beat the living crap out of things with a D7 setup and the Targe, basically, that just knocks people down. He doesn't have that. Gorbag is 60 or 50? Let me zoom in. 60 points. They're both Heroes of Valor. Cool. I think they were Fortitudes, or maybe they might have been Valor and it before. Heroes of Fortitude, Mordor Orc Captain, Mordor Orc High Captain, Mordor Orc Taskmaster. Those are 45, 55, and 45 respectively. 5-point upgrade for Orc High Captain is to get a two-handed weapon. I'm interested in why the Mordor Orc Captains are not listing war gear. I'm hoping that it's the same thing as the Minas Tirith Captains. It's just built into their profile, so they don't have to list anything. Because there are Orc Captains with shields, and I'm confused as to why they're not listing it. Shelob is 100 points. costs, I think someone noted more now. She was 90 before. We'll get to it later, but the bonus she gets against certain things is not there anymore. It might just be part of her profile. It used to be an army bonus. Mordor Orc Drummer is 30 points. Mordor Orcs and Mordor Urukai. Urukai are 8 points, 1 point for a two-handed weapon. No more bow option. Gone. They didn't make models for it. A Kirith Ungol list must always contain Shagrat and Gorbag. Shagrat has to be your general. There's a second bullet point on this page. It's not there. I think it might be a misprint. Animosity. Same thing as current. Friendly Orc models gain a bonus +1 to wound when making strikes if there's a friendly Uruk-hai model engaged in the same combat, and vice versa. They've already clarified it's melee. It's not ranged, or not from supporting, so you gotta mean melee. I hope that doesn't come up again. It doesn't need to be FAQ again. Rivals for power. Keep track of how many models Gorbag and Shagrat have each killed. If at any point either of them has fewer kills than the other, they may reroll a single d6 during the duel roll. That kind of sucks. They got other bonuses before, I'm pretty sure. That were better. I don't remember what they are. I think it had one. I think they had separate bonuses. I think it gave reroll to Gorbag and wound to Shagrat, something. I don't know. Swift Hunter. During the declare heroic actions of the move phase, Shelob can choose to kill a friendly model within 1 inch of her. Remove the chosen model as a casualty. If she does, Shelob may declare a heroic move for free, though she may not shout with me as part of the heroic move. She can't speak, so yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, free heroic move for Shelob. That's pretty good. She's probably not going to have might again, so... Or if she does, she has got like the 1. That's okay. The Black Gate. Mouth of Sauron is 75 points, 25-point armored horse. He's more expensive. I think he was 90 on a horse before, right? I think he was 70 base. I might be mistaken. Heroes of Fortitude, Mordor Troll Chief is 150. They are more expensive now. Now you can take a Ring Wraith. So the same way the Men of the West have Eagles, you can take Ring Wraiths. Ring Wraith, 2 attacks, 2 might, 14 will, 2 fate with a Fell Beast. Take a 10-point Morgul Blade. Morannon Captains are the same as earlier options. Mordor's Taskmaster, Morannons, and Mordor Trolls with War Drum option. You must always contain a Mordor Troll Chief, who is the Army's general, and the Mouth of Sauron, the Mordor Chief, is considered a hero of valor. Greatest of the Trolls, Mordor Troll Chief, that is your general, gains the Fearless special rule and an additional point of might, will, and fate. Hordes of Mordor, friendly Mordor Orc models engaged in combat gain a bonus of +1 to wound when making strikes against an outnumbered opponent, same as before. Temptation of Sauron. At the start of each move phase, before the declare heroic action step, you may choose a single enemy model on the battlefield. The chosen model must immediately take an intelligence test. If the test is failed, you may immediately move the chosen model up to its move value, following all the usual rules for moving, including making them charge if you wish. The chosen model may not move later in the move phase, but may otherwise act normally. Awesome. It's basically a super Spectre rule. Because Spectres you're not allowed to charge. This you are. But it's one model. Maybe it gets it into somewhere that they don't like. You get a hero on a lucky roll. That could get them killed. Now we get to the good stuff. Army of the White Hand. So, I feel personally vindicated that this army is basically the way that I've been playing Isengard all year this year. And I have been saying that this is the way to go. And it's very, very vindicating that GW's list that they made here basically matches my vision. Obviously, they thought of it before me. I mean, I've been claiming it for a couple years. I just didn't do it till this year. And I've been doing very well in tournaments this year with it. They've obviously been working on this book for a while, so they gathered that on their own. This is basically Burning the Westfold. Saruman is the hero of legend at 170 points. He is 10 points cheaper, 20-point horse. Hero of Fortitude, so no Valors. Oathmaker at 55 points, looks to be unchanged. Isengard Orc Captain. No, they're no longer considered Mordor Orcs here. I like that. 45 points. Again, I think that the shield or bow situation is going to be built in. Wild Man Chieftain. New profile. Which, as you could expect, is a Hillman, basically. Can take a light shield for 5 points. We still don't know what a light shield is, so now we're seeing these light shields work into here. The suspicion is that they are +1 defense against shooting, or just give you the shielding special. I don't know. I'm probably not going to take it. Or you can take a two-handed weapon on them for 5 points. And then you can take an Uruk-hai Scout Captain for 55. So you notice there's no fighting Uruk-hai in this list. There's no fighting Uruk-hai in my list, typically. I don't like them. Grima, 25 points as an independent hero. I assume he'll have the same rule with Saruman where he's got to be in his warband. Warriors. Uruk-hai Scout are 8 points, unchanged. Banner for 25, shield for 1, bow for 1, or Uruk-hai bow for 1. Same thing. Wild Man of Dunlending, 5 points. They now follow the warrior options of the Hillman, which you'll see later. Light Shield and Flaming Brand for 2 points, bow for 1, Flaming Brand for 1, Light Shield for 1, Spear for 1, two-handed weapon for 1. So if the Light Shield does not confer defense, I'm probably not going to take it. I will probably be taking Flaming Brand up front, Spear in the back. That's it. That'll be my army. I don't think I'm taking anything else. Of course, Orcs for banners, but Isengard Orc Warriors are the same as Mordor Orc Warriors. Same cost. The exact same profile, I think. Isengard Warg Riders, same as regular Warg Riders. No difference. Crabbinder still 20 points. I don't think they're going to change. They're a very powerful profile, but they're not, like, insane. You have to be pretty good to use them well, I think. So, yeah. Though I could see them potentially being elite. I don't know that that'll do anything, but maybe. Serve the White Hand. Other friendly models they can draw line of sight to Saruman gain a bonus of +1 to any courage test they're required to make. I love it. Not only are they probably fearless from the Oathmaker, they now get bonuses when they're not near enough. That's awesome. Because we already know Hillmen are 3 points because of 3 courage from the bonus from the leaks of the starter kit. But so this is a great one. The Voice of Saruman. During his activation, Saruman can use one of the following abilities instead of casting magical powers. Each of these abilities can only be cast once per game. Conjure Lightning. Choose a point on the battlefield at least 12 inches away from any friendly model, with the exception of Grima Wormtongue. Each model within 2 inches of the chosen point suffers a Strength 6 hit. If a cavalry model is affected, both the rider and mount will suffer a Strength 6 hit. Oh, I love this. You're basically just smiting stuff. Dude, he doesn't even need line of sight. It says no mention of line of sight. You just pick a spot to smite. That's insane. This looks nuts. And that's only the first rule. The second rule, Summoning Gale. Until the end of the turn, enemy models have their move value. Jesus. That's just awesome. You basically just take an army and say, you know how it's the last turn? You need to get to this objective? No. You're not gonna. This is nuts. This is going to be a common theme for all the Isengard and Dunlending lists. I love them. I looked at them out of everything. I looked at them immediately because it's me. The third one is Call Thunder. Until the end of the turn, enemy models have a fearful special roll. We don't know what that is. I suspect it's a opposite terror situation. I think it makes models with fearful have to take a test to charge, similar to ponies. And if they fail, they won't be able to charge, but they'll be able to move. I think that's what it's going to be. But we don't really know yet. So he's got those 3 abilities. He doesn't have the Palantir anymore. Sorry, he might still have the Palantir. It's in his profile in the current edition. He might still have it. It's just hasn't moved to an army bonus. And unlike Denethor's, that has it as an army bonus. Spies of Saruman. Saruman can draw line of sight from any friendly Crabite models on the battlefield. You can't hide from me. You can hide behind a building, and I just pop a Crabite to the other side, and then Saruman can see you from the other side of the building. And assuming that his casting range stays the same, that's going to be nuts. You will not be able to hide. It's basically like Radagast, but I actually have spells that are useful. So, next up, we have Lurtz's Scouts, which I like. Even with losing Mauer. There's no Maggoty bread. Heroes of Valor. Lurtz, Uruk-hai Scout Captain, is 100 points. He's up from 90. He's been added 10 points. We know he's got a Feel No Pain. They've said it before. I think he might be Fight 6 now. I think that's cool. If that's all he's got, it still might be underwhelming, but you'll see why this army is still pretty cool after. Ugluk is a hero of fortitude at 75. He's up by 10 points. I think he might get a third attack. Or a third wound. I'm thinking a third wound. Maybe a third attack too. Could be both. I think he does. Urukai Scout Captains are 55. Same thing as before. Urukai Drummer is 35. Same thing. Scouts, we've said already. Lertz' Scouts has to have Lertz as its leader. Relentless March. Friendly models increase their move value to 8 inches and gain Woodland Creature. So Malhar might be gone, but his legacy lives on. Everybody gets the benefit. You do not know pain. You do not know fear. The break point for Lertz' Scouts is 66 rather than 50. Not they don't take tests. The break point. So that was always a confusing thing for a lot of newer Isengard players and even people playing against Isengard. You still broke at 50% before, you just didn't take tests. So it was really weird when you had Isengard and non-Isengard models, and I always had to explain it to everybody. And then there was also stuff about taking your tests earlier than you normally would have to, and then how it interacts with Ugluk. It's just a mess. This now is saying that you don't break. Not that you don't take tests, which is key, because that means you're not going to break. The chances you have BPs are lower. There's a higher chance that you hang on. Like, there are some games that both armies barely break. In those games, you have the edge, and that's pretty cool. Lertz gains the General Hunter special rule and may declare heroic combat each turn for free. Fantastic. Heroic combats help a lot, especially if he's fight 6. If all he is fight 6 and with a feel no pain, the heroic combats are okay. I think that's enough. General Hunter, we don't know what it is. It's something to do with fighting an enemy leader. If it's a bonus that keeps Lertz from getting his head caved in, I think it's okay. Next up, we have Ugluk Scouts. So over here, Ugluk is a hero of valor. So that's why I think he might be upgraded on wounds and attacks, because now he is a leader. Maybe. You get Grishnak for 55, Snaga for 50, Scout Captain for 55, Isengard Orc Captain for 45, so notably they're no longer in Mordor. Urukai Drummer for 35, Scouts, Isengard Orc Warriors, we've seen them. You have to have Ugluk, has to be your leader. Orcs can only be an Orc hero warbands, Uruks and Urukai hero. Their pace is quickened. Urukais have 8 inches and woodland creature, as expected. Get a fire going! Once per game in scenarios that use objective markers, Ugluk can use this special rule during his move phase to choose an objective marker in base contact. So long as Ugluk is alive and on the battlefield, friendly models within range of the chosen objective marker gain the Dominant 2 special rule. Cool. So he's going to pick an objective, and he's going to set his feet down, and that's his objective. And that's awesome. He sits there, he commands the battle, I guess. I think it could be a strong objective play. Animosity, same thing as Kirith Ungol, the +1 to wound when you're fighting with the opposite race. I think that's very cool. Same thing as they are. They're mostly the same. I think it's more the profile adjustments that will be good. And, of course, if Ugluk got a bump. Next up, one that I have spoken out against so much in the past, but I think will be better. Sharku, as part of Wolves of Isengard, as a hero of valor, is 70 points. More expensive than current. Right now, I believe he is less than that. I think he is maybe 65. I think he's getting a fight value bump. I think he might be fight 5. And I think that is a difference maker. So you can take Isengard Orc Captains on Wargs for 65. Isengard. So notably, I mean, there's no Orc Captain Warg model, and it's been notably absent from other lists. So people have picked up on that. I don't really know what they're doing. Maybe they're going to release an Orc Captain model on Warg and update some stuff. I don't know. It's also, you don't really see any Orc Captains on Wargs in other situations, and any one of the Warg Riders could have been a captain. You can take Warg Riders. You've seen them before. Isengard Wargs now are specifically called Isengard Wargs. 7 points. You have to have Sharku, has to be the leader. The Wolves of Isengard army may have up to 50% of its warrior models armed with throwing weapons, rather than the usual 33%. So, it was teased. Throwing weapons have a limit. 33% of the list. Now, we don't know how that interacts, if at all, with the bow limit. But, there you have it. you have a limit. So we're not sure how it's going to impact certain models. So like Guardian's the King, or Grimhammers rather, for Army Authority. We don't know how it's going to interact. We don't know how it's going to interact with Corsairs. They might not have throwing weapons anymore. We'll see later when we get to Corsairs. They might not have it. They've nothing mentioning it, unless it's just a in-profile thing that they don't care about it. Though it's weird that they're making it in some armies and that they wouldn't there. But Leader of the Pack, Sharku has a free heroic combat every turn. Already has that. It's pretty cool. The next one, though, is what makes it okay. Savage Charge. Friendly cavalry models still gain the extra attack bonus even when they charge a cavalry model, and will retain it even if they are subsequently charged by a cavalry model. That's very good. No longer are you risking fighting against cavalry, losing your bonuses, and just melting because you're fight 3. You have extra dice. I think that's a game changer. Then you have Warg Scouts and Ambush. They're the same as current, glancing at it. I really don't want to read through those whole rules because it's a lot, and my voice is starting to go. It's been a little while so far. I'm going to skip it. It's the same as it is now. It's the same. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the same. Muster of Isengard. This one is the Uruk-hai version of Saruman. So you start with Saruman, same thing as before, 170, 20 with a horse. Heroes of Fortitude, Uruk-hai Captain and Scout Captain, 65 and 55 respectively. Grima at 25. Again, notably, they mentioned Grima doesn't have a horse anymore. Doesn't have a horse. It's gone. Uruk-hai Warriors are still 9 points. Hasn't changed. We're not getting a fight bump. It's all over. Maybe we will, and they're just not setting it up that way. They're setting us up for disappointment so that we feel pleasantly surprised. I don't know. Banners 25, crossbows 2, pike for 1, shield for 1. Same upgrades. No combining, no more pike banners. A little disappointing. Berserkers are 15, they're not changed. I really hope they get an upgrade. Scouts, we've seen. You have to include Saruman as your leader. You do not know pain, you do not know fear. Breakpoint is 66 rather than 50. We've seen that already. Isengard Unleashed. During the first turn of the game, each friendly Uruk-hai hero may declare a heroic march for free. Additionally, Uruk-hai captains gain heroic strike. Awesome. So this list obviously is going to be Saruman and then Uruk-hai captains. That's pretty cool. You get that early jump on movement. You're a melee force, really. You're getting in strong, getting in hard, and then when you do so, you can actually fight heroes. So that's a weakness of Assault on Helm's Deep, is you can't fight heroes. Now you can. Saruman using magic to help out a striking Uruk-hai hero that can help. There will be no Dawn for men. Friendly Uruk-hai models gain the Hatred Man special rule. Oh, that's very strong. So most men cap out at D6. Uruk-hai are strength 4. You now are going to wound on 4s. That's really good. Men armies still tend to be very well represented in events. This is a very strong rule. This is the one time where, I mean, honestly, if Uruk-hai are the same, and this is the way to run Uruk-hai, I think I'm okay with that. I think I can run Uruk-hai like this. Next up, you have Assault upon Helm's Deep. It's changed a little bit. Uruk-hai Captain as a hero of Fortitude is 65. Uruk-hai Warriors, Berserkers at 15 again. Uruk-hai Demo Team at 80. Isengard Assault Ballista 75. And something I just noticed. No more Isengard Troll. At least in this book. I'm personally, I'm hoping that they don't add them back. I don't want to. Isengard Assault Ballistas, you see, price increased. They were 65, they're 75 now. I hope they change a little bit because they've been disappointing since the nerfs, and those nerfs are represented here so far. Breakpoint is 66 rather than 50. You get that rule again. Awesome. Commander of the Uruk-hai. The Uruk-hai captain, that is your general, increases its attacks and wounds to 3 each. So, he's the same. Break the Walls. Friendly Isengard Assault Ballistae may reroll to hit and scatter rolls of 1. Additionally, when a friendly demolition charge is detonated, you may roll 2 dice on the detonation table and pick 1 as the result. It's the same army, except, notably, There is no more +6 to your warband size. It's gone. It looks like they are leaning you heavier into taking bomb squads and ballista. You're not meant to spam out Urks. I guess they're not happy that people did that, and they're speaking out against it by removing it. I'm a little disappointed because that was a fun way to play Urks, but given the mustering of Isengard, I think I'm okay with that change because I'm just going to play mustering. Alright, we are back to spoiler talk potential for the new movie. So, skip a few minutes ahead. I'll probably not end up doing spoilers, so be careful. Luckily, I'm not showing it, so you just mute me. Usurpers of Edoras. Heroes of Valor. You have Freka, Lord of the West March, at 80 points. It's pretty reasonable cost. Wolf, High Lord of the Hill Tribes, at 110 with a 20-point horse. He is an excellently costed hero, given the reveal of his profile via leaks. That's a pretty good, solid price. He's very good. General Targ is 80 points with a 20-point horse. I expected that cost. Makes sense. Lord Thorn is 70 points. Hill Tribe Chiefs, we've seen earlier, 40 points, 5 for a light shield, 5 for a two-hand weapon. So that's your generic. I like it. We've seen Hill Tribesmen in Wildmen of Dunland. They're the same profile. It's just named different. Rohirrim Traders. They are Warriors of Rohan. There's no difference. There's just additional rules for them. And you can take Krebine. So Krebine are still here. I'm very happy about that. I already like the roster of this list. This is definitely a list I'm going to be playing. I'll be playing all the Isengard lists. Additional rules. If your army includes Freka, he must be your general. So if you take Freka, he's got to lead. He's not going to listen to anybody else. That's entirely thematic. Interestingly, if you don't take Wolf or Freka, you can have Targ or Thorn lead, or just a chief. So I can go pure spam. I'm happy about that. Whipped into a frenzy. Whenever a Hill Tribesman or Hill Tribe Chieftain suffers a wound, roll d6. On a natural 6, the wound is ignored. And then Barbarous Killers. Friendly Dunlend models gain a bonus of +1 to wound when making strikes against enemy heroes. This is just like exactly what I wanted. So basically how I am envisioning myself run this list, if I don't run it as Wolf, because I'll still try Wolf. I might try Freka. I'm not sold on him yet. I need to see more of his profile. How I'm going to run it is I'm going to run Targ, Thorn, and Hill Tribe Chiefs. And I'm going to spam the crap out of Hill Tribesmen. And of course I'll take Krebine. I'm going to build out some stuff later, and I'm going to post it in the TTS Discord, and I'm just going to make people like contemplate death, because they're just not going to play it. This will be Goblin Town, but better. Like, it just will. Then we have Besiegers of the Hornburg. We start with Wolf, High Lord of the Hill Tribes. Same cost as a Hero of Legend now, so he's moved up, which makes sense. I called this happening. I expected it. I didn't think he was going to be Legend in Usurpers, because he's not going to be over Freka, and Freka is not going to be a Legend, and they told us that. Heroes of Fortitude, Targ, again, Hill Tribe Chief. Minor heroes are Shank, Rot, Orc Scavengers, who come along with the Snow Troll. We saw that reveal a couple weeks ago. Pretty interesting. Not going to take them. Warriors, Hill Tribesmen, and Krebine, same thing. This is a very similar roster to Usurpers, it's just different RV bonuses. So you have to include Wolf, and he has to be your leader, so you can't get away with spam as much here, though you still probably are spamming. Special rules. Wolf's Revenge. Whenever Wolf moves, he must always charge an enemy model if possible. Additionally, once per game, Wolf may declare a heroic challenge for free, though this heroic challenge must target the enemy general. Wolf may still do this even if the enemy general has a lower heroic tier. I love it, because Wolf is already meant to be an enemy leader killer, and now he gets to challenge them and get even more bonuses and do it for free. I think it's pretty cool. Now, the one problem for non-leaders is that they'd probably be a lower tier than him, who I'd want to challenge, so it's kind of rough. But in the other list, him being a Valor is good, because you can challenge more things. And he is going to be challenging heroes every single game. That is his game plan. I can, like, the Hill Tribesmen get in the way, Wolf challenges a hero, he goes and kills that hero. That's his goal. The Promise of Wealth. Friendly Dunlend models within range of objective markers gain a bonus of +1 to wound when making strikes. That's nuts. In scenarios where there is an objective marker, oh my god. Starting to do +1 to wound on top of Targ, who you can do the priority shenanigans we've seen through leaks. Rerolling 1 and +1 to wound is going to be very strong. Shank and Rot. Friendly Mordor models cannot benefit from the heroic actions or standfast of friendly Dunlending models, and vice versa. So they're on their own. They're just there. They're looking for food. That's what they're described. Look a little dopey. They're probably comic relief in the movies. But move on to Depths of Moria. This is the Moria list. The Balrog. Still 350. Hasn't changed. The same. Goblin Captain. 40 points. 5 for bow. I guess maybe no shield. I don't know. Independent heroes. You can take the Watcher. Watcher and the Balrog are in depths now together. You can take Moria Goblins for 4 points. 1 point for bow, shield, or spear. All the same. No combination as expected. Cave Troll is 75 points still. 5 points for a hand and a half hammer, or 5 points for a troll spear. I would guess you have to pick. I'm going to guess you can't just take it knowingly, because the model doesn't have that. Special rules. Drums in the deep. So there's no drums in this. Maybe it comes later. They didn't legacy the profile, so it should come later. Enemy models suffer a -1 penalty to any courage test they're required to make, while friendly Moria Goblin models gain a bonus of +1 to any courage test they're required to take. Additionally, friendly Moria Goblin models always count as being in the range of a banner. I'm not 100%, but it looks like those are bolded keywords, so it will affect the captain all the same. Dominion of the Balrog. Friendly Moria Goblin models within 6 inches of the Balrog gain a bonus of +1 to their fight value. Additionally, so long as the Balrog has at least 6 wounds remaining, the Depths of Moria army can never count as being broken. Should the Balrog have 5 or fewer wounds remaining, a Depths of Moria army will break as normal. However, should the Balrog ever be removed as a casualty, they will immediately break. So the same as Sauron, basically. Shadow and Flame, they're the exact same. I think. I'll read them. Shadow, shooting attacks that target the Balrog will only ever hit on a roll of a 5+. Then add Flame. Once per game at the start of a shoot phase, the Balrog may select a single enemy model within 3 inches of it and roll a d6. On a 2-up, they are immediately set ablaze, so that rule is going to still be here. This is an active ability belonging to the Balrog, and after it has used this ability, the Balrog no longer benefits from the Shadow special rule. So it's about the same as existing. Now you got the Watcher, you get a few less profiles, but it's a little more focused. Harad. It's very cut down. The Mumok War Leader is a hero of legend at 400. You can take Haradrim Chiefs, War Mumoks, and Haradrim Warriors. We've gone over those earlier. A Harad army can have up to 50% of its warrior models armed with bows rather than the usual 33, so Serpent Horde bonus that they have right now. War Beast from the south. Friendly Mumok models gain the Harbinger of Evil 12-inch special rule. So, what that tells me is that they might be combining certain special rules, and I hope so. Like Ancient Evil and Harbinger of Evil, they did the same thing, they just have a different range. If they're just going to make it Harbinger with a range, that's preferred. I think it's a cleaner way to do it. The Scorpion Sting. Friendly models with the Poison Attacks Bow special rule. Exchange it for poison attacks on all their weapons. So my guesstimation is that's part of the Haradrim profile, and then this extends it out to the rest of their weapons. So they'll probably have it as a bow rule. Monstrous Rampage. Each hero that is commanding a Mumok can, once per game, declare heroic combat for free whilst atop the Mumok. When they do, the Mumok will be affected as if they had been the one to declare the heroic combat, though they may not pivot before they trample as part of a heroic combat. That's pretty cool. So they did away with the craziness you could get away with the War Mumok, the Mumok War Leader, if you were fighting a leader in the Grand Army itself. So it was a very specific occurrence, but if you pulled it off, you could then rotate and charge in a random direction. You got to charge forward still. That's okay. I think it makes the regular Mumok a lot better here. You don't have to have the War Leader as your army leader here. So you could just run a War Mumok and have him trample. Double War Mumok. play. Lastly, but not least, though kind of least, the Corsair fleet. You get, as heroes of fortitude, Corsair captains with 55 points. Exchange a two-handed weapon for a crossbow for free, so I guess they come with a two-hander. Or bosun for 50 points, and they can exchange the spear they have for a crossbow for free. That's it. Corsairs of Umbar are 8 points. 1 point for a bow, 1 point for a light shield and throwing weapon, 1 point for a spear. Okay, so they don't have throwing weapons by default anymore. They're going to pay for them. And then, one thing that was not expected, Corsair Ballista. That's a name you haven't heard either ever or in a long time and in a very specific book. The Legions of Middle-earth book. It came out in approximately 2006. What that book was meant to be a kind of roadmap of what they were going to put out for the game. And a number of profiles were very ambitious and very not used. This one being among them. So it looks like they're bringing it back. What they're going to do with it, who knows? But it could be cool. They have them on the boats, so. A Corsair army fleet must always contain a Corsair captain who is the army's general. Okay. I mean, sure. I guess you don't want bosuns to lead. Sure. Probably because they have spears. Special rules. The Fleet Master. The Corsair captain that is your general increases their attacks and wounds to 3 each and gain the Fearless and Sharpshooter special rules. We don't know what Sharpshooter is, but it makes him a little buffer. Cool. The Last Stroke of Doom. Friendly Corsair models gain the Backstabber special rule. That's their army bonus now. Ballistae Assault. After both sides have been deployed, but before the first turn of the game, a single Corsair Ballista may make a shooting attack following all the normal rules for doing so. So, you're going to be on the board. You get a free shot at the beginning of the game. Armies that deploy against you have to play a little more defensively. With their deployment, they can't just do whatever they want. Pretty cool. But yeah, that is the last list to go through. So it's been a very long few hours, but there was a lot to go through. I appreciate those of you that have listened thus far. I know I can drone on a little bit and make some pretty bad jokes, but it was a good read to kind of get a feel on everything that's been leaked so far. Additional things I'll end up coming back to. I might come back and do some discussion on the magic stuff. I haven't finished reviewing all of it. I mostly want to know how you cast before I go through too much. And with the heroic actions, we're still missing a few if they do come out. It might just be that some of my breakdowns start happening after the 14th. I don't know how many will be written versus vocal, but most of it is going to be analyzed via spreadsheet, trying to figure out what the rules are. Yeah. Thank you everyone for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you come back to watch additional discussions over the new edition when they come out. And have a good night, or morning, or whatever. It's nighttime for me. I've been up for some hours now. Have a good one.